did everyone receive this via email?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So, and there's some modifications to the numbers, slight modifications. A couple of them are going to change from 19 to 21, but it shouldn't have any real impact on the order of what was provided there. We talked about some of the demographic information that has been covered before in chapter 2. And then talked about what a land use plan is. And then really the majority of the meeting was tailored towards getting input from folks. As I mentioned to Vicki earlier, 30 or 35 people is about my limit for doing sort of the solo facilitation. Usually when you get to that many folks, you want to break them up into groups. That being said, even with 35 people, things were cordial. No one got out of line. No one was inappropriate. So, I think we had a really pretty good crowd. Vicki, you were there. Woody, what did you guys think?
I'm surprised you said people were cordial. And have you had meetings where people have gotten vicious over a land use plan?
You'd be surprised.
Really?
Well, perhaps saying things that are not productive and trying to talk over one another type of a situation. Not anything aggressive or anything like that, but just behavior that's you wouldn't anticipate from grown folks.
Okay.
So.
But no, I thought it was very civil, very cordial. I mean, I thought you had some good input.
Yeah, I agree.
From some of the citizens, and I mean, like I said, I was not surprised at anything I heard.
So that was going to be, and I'm going to go over what we heard. To me, there wasn't anything that really stood out as, this is coming from left field. It's all pretty much what you would anticipate, and we'll go over that here.
I'd like to just say that I thought it was interesting. It was a different group of people, and so than what we normally see at our meetings. And I mean, I've never even seen some of these people before, so I don't know who they were or where they came from, but
Yeah, it was not your usual crowd you see at the Board of Commissioners speaking.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That means we're getting some sort of a diversity of opinion on some of these things. And for land use plans, it is such an abstract concept, it's usually hard to get folks to come out. If we would have said that we're going to reroute the location of the bridge or modify the causeway or something that's a little bit more concrete, which we're not doing. We're doing a land use plan. This room probably would have been full. But for such an abstract concept to have that many folks come out on a 7 o'clock in February was pretty good.
Well, it could be a reflection of people are all up in arms about the garbage issue, so they wanted to make their voice known, given that there's a lot of dissension going on recently.
But it wasn't a lot of conversation about trash.
And
no, I'm just saying that might have piqued their
yes.
civic duty to.
I did note though there were a lot of people from the fishing community, because they were real big on keeping the inlet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there were some of those guys they wanted to make sure they got their 2 cents in.
And so thank you for pointing that out. That was what I was going to point that out here. So we asked folks. There's 3 different things we talked about. What are the assets of Holden Beach? What are the issues folks feel like are problems or concerns, and what are our desires in terms of things that we want to see happen in the future? So in terms of assets, beach being 1, that's very obvious. 2 being lack of commercial development, meaning that it's primarily a residential community. But 3 was the presence of Lockwood Folly Inlet, and I think that, as Vicki just mentioned, some of the boater community possibly is putting that one up higher, a little bit higher than it otherwise may be. Then marshes and wetlands and canals and water access. Again, canals and water access somewhat related to the maritime community. So pretty straightforward set of assets. As you can see, the numbers there does correspond with dots. Each person was given 6 dots. They had 2 dots to put on assets, 2 dots to put on issues, and 2 dots to put on desires. And so these are prioritized in terms of what was most important to folks. We put up all of the facilitated comments, stuck them to the wall, and folks at the end of the meeting were able to put their dots on what they felt was most important. So again, not surprisingly, our first 2, beach and lack of commercial development. As mentioned prior, this meeting will be summarized. That we put in your public input. We had 35 people. We had almost 900 responses to the survey. So, the survey is going to take precedent.
Yeah, that's
sort of in formulating.
That's what I was going to ask.
Opinion.
Also, you don't know the demographics of the people, right? You don't know if they're residents or not. That was
We
never.
don't.
That's true. We
We
did have a
don't.
sign-in sheet, though.
We did have a sign-in sheet.
Can I get a copy of that?
Yes.
But again, you're talking about 900 on the survey
Right,
versus
agreed.
35, so the bulk of
That's
the...
right. This is the opportunity for folks to come and express their opinions or concerns, and if someone felt particularly strong about something, they could obviously grab me at the end of the meeting.
Did that happen?
No.
Okay.
I had spoke with a couple of commissioners, just that they felt like it was a good turnout.
Okay.
And, the town is giving the citizenry the option to come out and say whatever they need to say. And I don't necessarily think we heard anything that is much different than we've heard prior.
Which is good news, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
We haven't missed anything so far. Then.
Correct.
Well, we talked about this at our last meeting. Should we even bother having it or not? I'm really glad we had it because it was a lot of input. If nothing else, it validates the survey.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
In terms of issues, I'll note that this is usually the one that garners the most discussion, and we moved on from issues fairly quickly. It's a lot easier to poke holes or say something is problematic than it is to say something's positive, at least in general terms, in my experience. But we didn't spend a whole lot of time on discussing issues. So stormwater being one, I don't think that's much of a surprise. Sea level rise and offshore drilling are not necessarily things that have been highlighted by the survey, but those are number 2 and 3. Development versus preservation, this is something that is more akin to some of the results that came out of the survey. The fact that we need to balance development the best that we can, need to continue to have single-family residential beach, so on and so forth. Desires, sustainable growth being number 1, beach for nourishment 2, improving causeway appearance. Sustainable growth is not necessarily specified again in the survey. I think you can come to some conclusion that the survey supports sustainable growth, or at least supports the continued development pattern that we have here today. Beach nourishment mentioned overwhelmingly in the survey, and causeway appearance was also mentioned in a number of the comments as well. You'll see there fully maintained and marked inlet. That I think is attributed to some degree by some of the attendees and the voting community.
They were both 7 and 7.
7.
So the dog park was up there at a 5, but I think it didn't show up in the survey because when we sent the survey, we hadn't really understood completely that the dog park was going to be closed or, for law.
That's what they're reacting to,
Okay.
it being closed. Not that they need a dog park, because we have one, but
Okay.
it's been closed because of the dredging.
Okay, I gotcha.
When are
So-
we opening it, are they not? Not anytime soon.
I don't think there'll be any time in the foreseeable future. Do you agree, Tim?
You can't, but I don't know how you're gonna have a dog park there now. That'll be the worst dog park ever.
They can learn to climb mountains
Hills.
and swim.
Mud.
There's a couple little areas where we have where we have some area that could be turned into I don't know how viable it is. We haven't. I don't know if anybody's looked into it, but there's a couple areas out there that could possibly be dog park. I'll tell you, there's a couple of areas on the beach that would be great dog parks, but you'd have to buy the property. Like the Indian what's the name of that street down there that's got the round house on it down there? Okay.
Mike?
No, the one that's got the
Blockade runner.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some land at the end of Blockade Runner that belongs to people. That's to the right. It belongs to what's his name? Alan's cousin.
Lynn?
Lynn. There's a place over there as big as Texas. Looks like
His
Texas.
brother.
Mm-hmm.
Alan's brother.
Beautiful land over in there that could be purchased, you know what I mean, for a dog park. But there's an awful lot of open lots right over here to the left that could be turned into a dog park. They don't have the shade and the pretty trees like the other one did, but they do over there in that other park I'm talking about. Those are landed areas. But then, and we also own a lot at the end of Heritage Harbor Acre. What is it called?
Heron Landing.
Heron Landing. I know y'all think I am having a problem there.
Do we own the spoilage area there?
Yes.
We do.
We do.
And we own we have a lot that goes right up to the top of the very first berm. So there's some lots in there, and there's actually an easement access, I think, that runs down between the two properties, between the subdivision on one end and Heron Landing, behind where Minneola Rocker's house was at. There's like a road that goes through there it's there, but it's not there. We used it for utilities at one time, I think. But there's quite a few places, you know what I mean, that could be cleaned up.
On the waterway, there's an old pier down there on the end of Heron Landing Wind.
Mm-hmm.
Does the town own that pier? Dock?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's a...
That's an unknown question. Who does own it?
Man, just think about how nice it would be if we had Monk Island.
Got to get to it.
For a dog park?
You can get to that.
Okay, that's low on the priority list. Can we move on?
Dreaming here.
5
Yeah.
people want it, so.
Well, I mean, I ain't saying for a dog
Yeah.
park. I'm just saying.
Well, that'd be,
Yeah, annex it.
There you go. It's a good idea. And that nutsucker.
You know it's got sanitary sewer, approved
Yes, it
sanitary
does.
sewer and power.
The
You
only
big
access-
money people.
Access is always from the water only. But you're saying then you get a road around there?
No, I'm just saying. No, you can walk over there. That's what makes it, pick it up for nothing. Walk your dog over there.
Bring your waiters.
All right. So anything else about the public meeting? Okay. All right. Good to move on.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did want to come back to the vision statement and just talk about that briefly. I'll read it again, or you guys can read it again, and I'll also read it out loud. Holden Beach utilizes its available resources to be an inclusive, family-oriented, residential community that strives to protect and sustain its natural resources and recreational beaches for current and future generations. So, I think the goal...
Would it read better if it says will utilize?
Sure. I mean, that
Utilize it says that's what we're doing.
sure.
I mean, if you're making a vision, I think you'd say will.
That-
Continue.
Yeah.
Should.
And I do have the old one at the end of this slide presentation if you want to go back and look at that. That'd be helpful. Okay.
No, I think we should just, do we like that one?
Yeah. Okay. That's...
Don't muddy the waters with what we used to
Okay.
have.
Okay.
Needs to be short and to the point.
I like it.
Okay.
What is inclusive saying?
Like handicapped and stuff like that.
I don't know. I believe, if I recall, the committee wanted to include that term. So I think that would be
Or any
sort of-
race, religion, nationality. I mean, that's all
Well, I know, and
inclusive,
we all
right?
define that ourselves, right?
Well, yeah, I think the point is that we're not going to be
Excellent.
excluding anyone.
No.
Yeah.
We're
We're not
not
excluding anyone.
Everybody's in it.
Did it start because it originally said non-exclusive? We said,
That word was in there.
and we changed it to inclusive or something.
No, it was in
The
there.
word was inclusive, so that's what we kept.
Yeah.
The old one said,
Yeah, I mean, I can go to it, but
okay,
yeah,
inclusive was in there.
yeah.
And I asked at the time, what is,
If
What do you mean
if
with
we don't know what it means, then we can take it out. Holden Beach will utilize its available resources to be a family-oriented residential community, so on and so forth.
I think by inclusive, it means that we're not asking people to pay to be here. Is that what that means?
No, I think it's
I
just that
think
we're
it just
not
means you're
excluding any
welcoming.
race, religion,
You're welcoming, yes.
sexual orientation.
That's
I
what I
mean,
was
we're just saying
Yeah.
that we're not going to be.
Okay.
That's what it means to me. I don't know if you guys have
That's-
it. If
that's
there's a
weird.
different definition, how someone else is reading
No,
it.
that's the way I read it.
That's why
Yeah,
I
me
read
too.
it too, and I think it should be there.
Yeah.
Because we need to be that way.
So if we're, we don't need to beat a dead horse here if we feel like we've sort of got it with a minor modification of will utilize. Good. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. All right. So everyone hopefully has had a chance to go over Chapter 4, Community Facilities, Analysis of Community Facilities. So I'd like to discuss that section, and then you'll have a new chapter that we'll distribute at the after we go through this.
is there any way to get an outline of the whole thing? The reason I'm doing this is because sometimes you have something you want to make sure is included, but I don't know if it's included somewhere else or.
Well, you'll be getting the sort of the last meaty chapter today.
Okay.
You'll get chapter 6 at the when we meet in April, but that's a required chapter of CAMA. All it is a rehash of essentially how you administer land use provisions,
Okay.
and then a summary of all the recommended actions. There'll be no policies in it. It's called Tools for Managing Development. It's a real interesting chapter. Is there something in particular that you're concerned that we need to add? Let me ask that.
Well, I did add some in here, but I didn't know where the other things would be, so I'll wait. That's
Okay.
cool.
All right. So questions then, either on page 1 or we can. If anyone have questions generally about this chapter.
I've got a couple on 4-1. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Because I haven't been here that long, but how old are the oldest components in the water supply system? Because it talks about what's been replaced, but like how are there
Was it
still original
1978?
I don't know.
infrastructure?
I think
in
so.
place?
It's old. I know it's old. I don't know the year. Have you heard the year 10?
The water would have been here prior to the sewer. Sewer, I believe, was 2002.
Yeah.
Water was here a long time before.
It's
the
been
sewer.
78, I think,
Yeah.
is when we put the water
A long
in.
time.
I was here.
So we don't need to worry about lead pipes or anything like that, right?
No.
No,
Okay.
shouldn't.
They get tested, they're being tested periodically now.
Okay.
And the
More-
reports come back that say that it's good for another 80 to 100 years, so
Oh, awesome.
we're really,
Blessed. Got some good pipes.
that we
always
live in
been
a forgivable, there's no freezing, there's no, minimal freezing compared to somewhere, north.
Saltwater intrusion
My-
is
I was-
only the primary concern for water
My
sewer.
primary concern was asbestos. Was that used in, like,
I am not sure.
It is cemented asbestos pipes,
But yes, there's probably asbestos cement.
which I believe that's still the standard, right?
PVC now, I believe, is the standard.
There's no
no, asbestos is been outlawed in state by state, it should be all
But from
states.
a breathing perspective, right?
Yeah, that's if it's airborne, right?
Everyone.
So we need to not,
So when these pipes are taken out and replaced, like the 50 feet that was, they have to be abated?
I do not know the answer to that
No.
question.
I don't
They
think
should
so,
be.
because it's not,
They're not cutting it?
mhm.
Okay.
Just questions.
Um,
Sensitive topic for me.
Okay,
Well, in the next couple paragraphs down, it's talking about reduction of pollutants and substances, and it says the RO plant will remove. I didn't realize that it actually removed Gen-X. I thought that that was like, we don't know how to remove Gen-X.
Reverse osmosis.
Reverse osmosis is one of the only ways to do it,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And we're understanding that that's in process.
So it's a moving target. As of this writing, this is what is in place, and I'm going with the best available information. It could change. It's a large expenditure of dollars, but this is not, you guys are not expending those dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you will be affected through your utility bill and or your county taxes, but it's not a decision necessarily that's up to the town.
People that put it in there should pay for it.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation. I don't necessarily disagree with you about that either, but yes, you know, I will say this, and then we can talk about this as much as we want, but I will say that it is somewhat surprising that the county, Brunswick County, rather than Cape Fear Public Utility Authorities, is the one that's sort of leading the charge here on figuring this out. That's all I'll say about that. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
I was thinking it'd be after the paragraph that ends, which pumps surface water from Kings Bluff Reservoir located upriver from Lock and Dam number 1 on the Cape Fear River. To insert a sentence there that says water is provided by 2 mains crossing at the bridge and at Seagull Drive, because that's kind of what how it gets to us.
Okay. Yep. Water is provided by 2 mains,
Mm-hmm.
paralleling the bridge.
Yes. And it's Seagull.
Seagull. Interesting how the sewer goes off and the water comes on Seagull.
And then I had a question about, in the very last paragraph, it talked about the demand of potable water is highest in July and lowest in February, which coincides with seasonal visitation. I think we need to put and irrigation, because if you look at the usage based on what is generated from a sewage system, you know, we've got much higher irrigation than we actually do consumption.
Yep. Typically, July is the highest irrigation use as well.
In that same paragraph, it's not wrapping my head around it yet, 110% of total capacity in July.
And somewhere it's referenced as 101%.
That's in the middle paragraph on the second page.
So I'm wondering if those are, like
Linked.
you linked,
Yeah.
is that the same reference or is that
Um,
a misprint?
So there's different ways that you think that the engineers are primarily dealing with this. They wouldn't have sort of this fluctuating way of handling things. There's talk about average gallon per day, average consumption, and peak consumption. And so you take the average by totaling your total flow for the month and dividing it by the days. But then there's also, you can determine what the total daily usage is. And so there's 2 ways to sort of figure out your capacity. If you are averaging above your total available capacity, you got big problems, right? But if you have only 1 peak day or 2 peak days which exceed your available capacity, then you're likely okay. It just means
So
that
the
you
capacity doesn't mean actual capacity.
Right.
Okay.
That
I mean,
fluctuates.
if it's
Like
capacity.
capacity seems like what happens
right.
right before the pipe breaks
Yeah.
or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
your well goes dry.
so you guys have a purchase agreement to consume a certain amount of water. That's 1,000,000
Okay.
gallons per day.
Okay.
So, and if you are exceeding every day your consumption figures of 1,000,000 gallons per day, you probably need to modify your purchase agreement. If your peak day exceeds it one day out of a year, you're probably not having an issue. But it is an indication that that purchase agreement may need to be modified in the future. Does
So
that
that's
make
the
sense?
last line on that paragraph.
Yes. Yep. And because you're also not on wells, you are being served by a surface water source, Cape Fear River, which essentially is an endless supply, albeit there's some quality issues there. Then it's, water supply planning isn't as dire as if you were served by an aquifer or groundwater source. So,
Now, which paragraph are we talking about? Are we talking about?
Bottom of page 4-1,
Forward.
Oh,
in the middle.
I got those too.
Well, yes, I had, bottom of 4-1 says, it's anticipated to purchase additional water capacity being necessary to serve, but then you go to the next page, and it says we don't need water to 2050 or 2060, so I mean,
So in North Carolina, we're required, all of the entities that supply water have to do a local water supply plan. And they sort of have these rudimentary planning guidelines. And oftentimes I don't believe that they're necessarily sufficient to truly quantify the needs of the beach communities and the seasonal communities. Their plan says specifically that until 2050 you're fine. You may be, but I would say that you're probably going to have to modify the purchase agreement before that. Would be my
And that's
guess.
just how much water we're getting
Right.
from the county from the river.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would you say you'd have to modify it before then?
So, because we'll be needing more water.
If you
No,
have
no. I'm asking him why he would say that. I know that I can come up with numbers and figures that would show that I would need more water.
Yeah.
But when you have a peak demand of 1 or 2 days where you're 1.69, and you're never going to reach that maximum until 2050 based on your 1,000,000 gallons per day, why would you say that, in your opinion, we would need to look at that contract and up it?
Well, I mean, you can keep it the same, but if you're already exceeding peak days on certain times and you're having continued population growth that we have estimated in here of seasonal population of 25,000, you may have a peak day demand of 1.69.
But what
But
about
the
the days
contract
we don't
isn't-
use 1,000,000
The
gallons?
contract
what I'm
isn't
saying. I
about
don't
peak
understand
days,
why you
right?
would up your
It's about
contract.
average. So average, we should
It's
be
not
fine.
all-
So you may be fine.
Your 1,000,000 gallons a day is not on a daily average. It's
Right, it's
actually on
just
the
the
average of
average.
the contract.
Sure.
So if you're not using but 50% of it 90% of the time,
Right.
and then you're using 25% more 10% of the time, then you're not nowhere near needing to change your contract.
So you may not need it at all.
Agreed.
But right now it says we wouldn't need anything until 2050.
That's correct.
So this is only supposed to be for how many years? 10 years?
30 years.
This what we're writing here?
Yes, but the local water supply plans, they project out to 2060.
Right, so I'm saying the next people that review this in 10 years, then they can see if that
And it may
50
be-
in 2050 is,
That's correct.
I mean, they got a lot of time to decide.
Oh, yeah. That-
We look good right now for this group.
You have no problems.
Good.
So then should we take out that last bit out of that paragraph on page 4.2?
Well, I'm thinking about the last bit on 4.1. Anticipate that we'll need new,
Additional water capacity that will be necessary to
yeah,
serve.
that's where I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah, that can be taken out.
yeah, that's the one I was saying. I couldn't
Exactly, didn't reconcile with the
4-2.
next page, right,
Yeah.
exactly. All right, good.
But even that middle paragraph on 4-2, the last sentence says, we'll
Again,
experience capacity issues well before 2060.
And that's a projection, and I don't,
That one I'm
I
not
won't
so
be allowed
concerned
to-
about because it
well,
says
I know,
2060 and nobody's going to get excited
Well, it says
about
it's
that.
possible, so maybe it's kind of like a, just so you don't forget.
That's the only.
And
That's
that's a
what this
point.
is. Yeah.
because the next review, people might want to look at it again.
In 10 years or whatever. How long is it supposed to be good for? 10 years?
It's up to you guys. It can be good forever if you want it to be.
Yeah.
It's sort of just up to whether or not you want to update it.
Well, I don't think it's an issue right now. We seem to have more than adequate water supply into the future.
Right.
Amen.
Yeah, what I think is missing here is that the town may want to revisit based on population growth.
That's that's all.
That's a good point.
That's
Yeah.
all
It's-
that's.
That, I mean,
Sort
because
of
this is a
getting
land
at.
use plan, and I mean, this part here reads more like a,
But Division of Coastal Management requires us to look at infrastructure carrying capacity,
right.
and that's sort of what we're doing. You know,
So, but I think that it would be important that somewhere in here that it says that we need to revisit it based off the 1.69,
that's
Well, don't you say that later?
if that's in there somewhere.
Don't we say that later?
Assuming that gallons per capita per day remains unchanged.
Says currently there are no major plans to upgrade the capital improvement related to the water system, but the
Right.
sentences before that says that if 1.69,
and what it should say if an average of 1.6 gallon, average of 1.69 million gallons per day, which they're not going to be, then you would need to purchase additional water from the county to meet demand. So that sentence should be modified.
That's just saying if and when.
That is correct. That's all it's saying.
And that's not a bad thing. That's like a
in that,
mark in the sand or whatever.
this is a reference.
So
this
this,
is a,
it
hold
does
it,
A
say here.
reference point.
this is a reference number, and if that actual sentence is accurate, then it would be if 100% of the million gallons per day of capacity were
That's
needed.
correct.
That's when you would need to look at it, not at 1.69.
That's correct.
Because you're already 70% above it.
That's right. If you are averaging,
That number needs to be changed to 100%. In other words, if you're using 100% of your million gallons a day of capacity, that's when you would need to purchase more water than up your contract.
that's right. If you're averaging
If you're-
1.6 million gallons per day,
Right,
then you
Which is 100%.
correct.
right.
So he does talk about it. So when you get to the goals and objectives, so this is just giving you the information,
Correct.
the facts. And then later, when you look at the goals and information, it says one of the recommended actions is to monitor water consumption figures and plan for the purchase of additional supply from the county. So it just says monitor it later. It tells us to do that. This is just the facts.
But I
This is
will,
the actions,
you know,
right?
Okay, what I got in this report, it says that we are currently using 0.17 million gallons a day. Right?
which report are you looking
Is
at?
I'm
that
looking at-
2017?
2017 water report. But I think that's what you based your stuff on, right?
Yeah, it is.
We don't have that.
No.
That's from a different.
I can share it and you want to read it. Okay.
And that's average.
Yes.
For the year.
Correct.
Yeah, on an annual basis.
Yes.
So are you questioning that that's not the number that's in here? Is that the .41?
Well, no, I'm
What
just-
does yours say?
That we're using 0.417.
Yeah, that's what he says,
Yeah.
.41. That's
Yeah.
what he's got the same. Whew, got the same number. That's good.
Yeah.
I thought she said another number.
I thought you did too.
I thought she said 0.17.
I thought she did.
She
too.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
117.
0.417.
No,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the point.
So we're good.
Yeah.
He's got the same number that you
Well,
do.
we didn't hear the forward.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here thinking, oh my God, we're already at capacity.
All right, so we're good.
1.7. What I heard. Okay.
My point is we're using.
You're using half of your available. Correct.
On a regular
Yes.
basis.
That's right.
And then his
40%
final
of revenue.
sentence in that whole thing is, currently there are no major plans for upgrades or capital improvements related to the water system. So I think that's accurate. And that,
Well, I was going to ask that, we're looking at
Water
the
tower.
need for a water tower.
so
We don't need one.
we don't need one.
Yeah, I don't,
We haven't determined that yet.
Okay, let me read off Mark since he's not here. I'm just going to read his comment. You guys can. I believe the report needs to not only address this issue, this is water capacity, from a consumption capacity basis, but also address the importance of the role of water capacity and pressure as it relates to fire protection. Despite the lack of consensus as to the recommendation, we must at least acknowledge the town is in receipt of a report which indicates there is insufficient capacity to adequately fight house fires in at least one section of the town. I believe we at least need to make sure the plan indicates this matter needs to be monitored effectively to ensure homes are adequately protected in the future.
Is that true? We don't have enough capacity to get
no, it's not. And what
pumpers.
they said in this, in the meeting, in this room, that the minimum requirement for the state is 500 gallons per minute or whatever. And or 5,000 or whatever, we had twice as much up there, and they want 5 times that amount.
We meet all the
What is it, 500 gallons per minute
I think
Yeah,
so.
but
is the minimum
2
requirement? We
hours,
have
something like
1,000.
that.
We
But
have
we
1,000.
recommended to the Board of Commissioners that we go out and hire another firm to do a evaluation, so.
Actually, what it said was if they want to move forward,
If
we
they-
recommend that they
Hire another
hire an engineering firm with more expertise.
firm.
In that.
Yeah, I would.
You think it's a dead issue?
I think that if we need more water, we need more water pressure, we need another water tower, somebody needs to say something other than fire suppression, because fire suppression in residential dwellings is not tied to any water hydrant on the planet. That is what everybody needs to know.
They're pumpers.
That it's not tied to it. If that was the case, you couldn't have a house in Ash. You can't. There's no residential dwelling on the planet that receives anything. Now, what you do is you get better insurance rates, and in our particular case, our water system is so much better than our fire department that they would have to do a lot of improvements over there for us to benefit from upping anything. But our water already reaches its maximum capacity ability to get reduced fire rates.
Mm-hmm.
But water pressure at a fire hydrant, it only goes to your ISO rating. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And the numbers that they were using was a chart that was used for commercial R2, R3, not residential dwellings, because the chart itself doesn't even apply to residential dwellings. And what they were doing was using it as a standard as to what they would desire and like to see. Okay, because they have to have a standard. That same chart allows them to reduce the numbers in it by half or to anything that they like.
Correct.
In other words, it bothers me. It bothers me when we attempt to utilize stuff that's not designed. We all heard what they said. You know, you couldn't get them to say that it was because of the water or any of that. It bothers me when you try to use something in an attempt to justify something else. Now, if the town wants to come up with an ordinance that says we would like to see 2,000 gallons at every fire hydrant, then yeah, you're going to need another water tower. But until they do that connection's
But
not
why
made.
do we need that?
I
Because
don't
we
know.
don't meet that requirement on
So-
a peak day
So,
in July. If there's a fire
On the
somebody
west
needs to use a
end,
hydrant
they
on
wouldn't have
west
the
end,
pressure.
So
and if there was 10,000 people on the island,
But
they wouldn't have
2,000
the desired pressure at that hydrant.
2,000 PSI, whatever it's called,
Yeah.
is not necessary.
It's what the
Desired.
fire chief
That's the
desired.
desired number that somebody picked from the
Right.
air.
Got
Like
it.
I go
That's
to your house
exactly
and
right.
The
your house
state-
is worth, pick any number from the air, doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Well,
The
That's
state
exactly
says
right.
the minimum's 500,
Okay.
so that's what I would think that that's the big wheel.
in terms of the land use plan, do we need to put a recommended action that says continue to monitor fire suppression capabilities?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think
Okay.
so.
I think that's.
Do we need to address it at all?
I don't think
Okay.
I don't think
All
so.
right.
Because
That's
Not
all. That's
now.
all I want. Okay.
I mean, that goes without saying.
Okay.
That's a can of worms.
Okay.
Anything else on 4.2 or 4.3?
It seems a little unusual that our daily average wastewater flow is almost half the available capacity. Is that strange?
No, it's the same with your water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same
Stop flushing
where
what goes
you've
in.
got your max.
Stop flushing your toilets.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when your sewage consumption is a little different than your water consumption, when it's when there's a definitely skew in it, you got a leak or you're drawing in groundwater or something like that.
Or there's irrigation that's not being
Yeah,
correct.
Okay.
Okay, let me read off. Dwight had a question about this on page 4.3. On May 29, 2018, the flow was 5.8 million gallons per day in a wastewater treatment facility with a capacity of 6 million gallons per day. What happens when that flow becomes 6.1? Where will it go when it exceeds 6 million gallons a day? Is this as alarming as it seems, or is there a plan B for when we exceed the capacity?
Every plant is permitted at 80%. They cannot permit the plants above 80% to account for
Overflow.
overflow.
And the county has, and that's up to the county. You guys have an allocated capacity that goes to their facility, and if I recall, that facility does have a distribution. Or is that a short? I have to deal with so many of these. I'm thinking of Holly Ridge. In any case, I believe the county that is their capital improvement plan to handle it. And
Yeah, they're supposed to upgrade the plants.
Yep.
But they can't permit more than 80% than what they have in place. Once they exceed 80%, they have to then, by law, start improving the plants to get more capacity.
And there are plans for expansion of that plant, in the short term to allocate an additional 750 gallons daily for City of Southport. And I know that the county in particular, they are fairly active in working to figure these things out.
And we don't use all ours. We actually sell some of ours to Southport.
So that was my point, is that this is the 5.8 million gallons per day is at that facility
That's
for
correct.
everybody, not just us, and that
Yeah.
we are okay.
Yep.
We have extra.
Yep.
Okay. Let me just read this off for Mark, because he also had capacity issue about that. At least acknowledge the town's active project to ensure ongoing function of the system in response to major storms by elevating certain stations that are currently underground and susceptible to flooding.
That's
Now,
there.
I think that's
on
in there.
4.4. It's the
Okay.
last paragraph in 4.4
Yep.
before, after the table.
Okay, so
Yep.
we're done with
4.4.
Mark's comment.
Page 4.4.
Yep.
Okay.
Last sentence.
Okay. Okay, so does anybody have anything on 4.4?
Nope.
I was very interested in the resource.
I thought that was interesting too.
That was news to me. Had no idea where it went.
It's good. I'm working with Holly Ridge on a project. They have a huge community up there that they dump the wastewater in their stormwater pond that is supposed to be an amenity for the community.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
That's fun.
Whoa. Just
Anyways, okay.
watch Jill's walls.
Well, I did notice that it did say though that the water is beneficial for fertilizer.
Yes.
Yes.
For
it's
fertilizing, and I'm thinking, so it's partially treated effluent?
Essentially, yes.
Yes.
They use it for overspray in agriculture, like on pastures for cows.
Turf.
Okay.
So we're on page 4.5?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I was very interested in what the plans are and what the projected time would be for improving the stormwater.
Yep.
The map was interesting. Let's see if I can put my hands on it.
Is the town responsible for improving Marker 55? Is that a private community? Is that a private community?
It's already it's already improved according to this.
So, I mean, right, it's water under the bridge, but
It's done.
We did a joint thing with them where they worked on Marker 55 inside their subdivision. We worked on our swells all the way down to High Point and around the corner. I managed that project, but it was a 50-50 partnership. It wouldn't have done us any good to fix the swells and then not fix their part, or done them any good for us to fix it. And what we fixed was the water that was sheet flowing over there, off there, across Brunswick Avenue and into those people's properties across the road. And so the town undertook a joint effort with them, just like we did at Point West.
Point West.
Yeah.
all right.
So those two, and then Vicky's Scotch bonnet, is that working better?
Actually, I've got that highlighted, that you didn't really do all of Scotch Bonnet. You did kind of the corner there, right? So that's incorrectly drawn.
What are we talking about?
Okay.
On the
And,
map, Scotch bonnet in blue.
you know what I'm talking about.
No, I'm talking about.
And it's the same with Marker 55 is not.
You talking
drawn.
about where the guy sat on the deck and called me names that day?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was there for that. That was really
Yeah, it's
exciting.
right around the corner.
So it does not go all the way to OPW.
No, I'm assuming that I probably marked it on the map. Wanting to,
So
it's
this,
actually
we
it's
we
actually-
wanted to show a generalized location of where projects have occurred and where they potentially may occur that have been identified. Just, it's a much easier thing to show on a map than
Very helpful.
text.
Very helpful.
Okay, so we should probably then, when we get down to the map, we should look at some of these because they're not indicated correctly
Okay.
in comparison to the text.
Okay.
I wanted to note that in our survey, stormwater flooding is a high priority for
Right.
people.
That's
So I
what I
want to
was
make
trying
sure
to
that
look
we
back to
get
the
this.
survey of somewhere. I think we should have that as a reference as we're going through these. What were the top three in each one of those categories? Because I don't even have that
This-
printed out anywhere. But
So, what are you saying that's wrong along the map? Here?
Okay, well, okay, we got Scotch Bonnet, which is really just the little corner there was all that was done. Marker 55,
Which corner?
that's kind of just the back.
It was the back end. It was the back end. Right here.
Okay.
Marker 55 subdivision, that blue one, is really, it was that back half of the lot, of the blue box, right?
No,
Like,
the
comes
front
up to
half.
Brunswick Avenue.
It's the front half. It was along. It started just basically left of the. I mean, right of the tennis courts. But
Right,
it was
but
the
I mean-
entire road all the way down to High Point and around the corner.
Right, but I mean, the way it's drawn on this thing, it
Comes to
doesn't
the
go all the way to
ocean.
the
Goes to
ocean
beach,
front.
right.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. It stops at. Yeah.
Does it improve stormwater throughout?
No, it only improves stormwater up to Brunswick Avenue.
Okay.
Which is this road right here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then
So it's
in
the
the
back
red
half.
box next to it, it says 337 to 301. I don't think that box is drawn right.
Where's this at now?
The little red box just
It's
to the
pretty
right.
close. It should come on down from my
Well, now-
memory.
Well, see, I am
Are
to
we-
the west of Neptune and I'm 301. So I think that really this red box needs to slide in where the blue box is, if you're going to do it that way.
Okay. This was done, we did this based on what we saw where the worst areas were during the storm.
Yep.
Most of this is where we had to pump water out for days. And so, if it comes to a street or two left or right, anytime we improve stormwater, we're not improving stormwater right in a hole.
Yeah.
We're improving it left, right, back, forward. That's why he was asking the question he was. You can't fix one little problem here and not affect somewhere else. It's helping everywhere.
Well, I'm just real familiar with that one just because that's right in front of my house and it's
So-
so bad it moves the people driving
But
the
you gotta
road, it moves
remember-
the rocks.
You gotta remember, when we're making this map, we're not doing a survey of the actual water that was
Gotcha.
in place to show exactly where the limits of that water was. This is just an area that we're talking about looking at to have stormwater improvements.
Correct.
And it's the same thing on the west end, down here, and the same thing at 126 through 315, is that in that area, there's gonna be some big flooding.
Yep.
So that's why we did it that way. I'm the one that made the map and sent it in. So, and we talked about it. I did it with Chris, and we talked about trying to get those areas that may be fully affected. Now I don't remember drawing it. I may have circled that whole thing. I don't know.
You know, he marked up on hand drawn, and we put it. You know, so now the town's got something that they can use moving forward.
Like if we'd have been talking about improving roads, I'd have just circled every bit of Brunswick Avenue. You know what I mean?
Sure.
West. Because of that beautiful road.
So during the storm, you went out and surveyed all this?
No, during the storm, I was out there standing in it. So I
And
know where it's
that's
at.
where they had to pump.
That's where we had to pump during the
So
storm.
you didn't pump all those red ones, though, I
We
don't
pumped
think.
the ones along Ocean Boulevard. Every
Yeah.
one of them, I waded in and set pumps up.
What
and
about
worked
this
on for
one
2
all the
days.
way on the west end?
Yes, sir. That's one of the.
You
That
pumped
west
down
end,
the west
the
end?
west end is a big hole. I mean, the deepest on the island.
Yeah, that one's pretty bad.
Mhm. That one there, even on a moderate storm before it gets out of here, is almost up to the back of Rhonda's, up to the bottom of Rhonda's F-150, and she's got a high boy, which is off the ground about that high.
Yeah, you would not want to drive a car down there.
No.
No. That little gray truck I drive, water would come in the door. It's done it down there.
And then I had I'm not sure, it's the 3rd paragraph. Third line, it says, these improvements provide cumulative drainage from the east and east to the intercoastal waterway. Do you mean,
North.
I think you mean north.
Because the island goes.
Yeah, I think it should say from the east. Yeah, I need to double check on that. Let me just, and the intercoastal shouldn't have to be hyphenated there, I think. Is that the text you sent me with the map?
Might have been, but I probably gave you some,
Yeah,
but I don't know where she's reading from. I haven't found
right
it.
here.
3rd paragraph.
Okay, so,
Cumulative drainage from east,
mm-hmm.
from the east.
And east to the intercoastal waterway.
Probably north, right? Because you have to
Yeah,
go north
it's
to get to the
Okay.
intercoastal. From anywhere.
East,
on the other
yeah. No,
It was north and then east to the intercoastal waterway.
okay.
Right off way
It goes
to-
dead north and then it turns east.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
last line in that paragraph, Kathy pointed out, it shouldn't be right away, but right of way.
Yeah, it's right of way.
That's a big difference.
I sped red right over that.
Okay. Cumulative drainage from the east to the northeast, is that?
That's right. It's
Yeah,
gonna go
east.
north and then it's
Yeah,
gotta go east.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Okay.
Anybody else have anything else on that page? I had a thing on the bridge.
I did.
I just want to know this planned refurbishment it seems like it's going to start soon. When I read this, we hadn't seen anybody, but they've talked about it, how they need to resurface and redo the concrete on it. Should we include that?
Can we have an open discussion about that? How to control the traffic on the bridge?
Meaning,
How many cars in capacity at one time that are sitting up there on July the 4th, waiting to come on the beach?
Well-
More than the bridge is built to hold?
I think he explains that, is that
That
they're not going
hadn't
to tip.
happened yet.
yeah, I mean,
Because if it does, it'll be in the water.
I
that
can
how
tell
they
you
measure
that
it?
it was.
Well, I understand what you're saying, I know, but the planned capacity is
The
overdone.
Topsail Beach just finished their bridge, which, mind you, was contracted 4 or 5 years ago at a cost of $54 million. So, just in terms of when you guys are discussing about the Brunswick County residents that pay state income taxes, unless you all want to pay for the bridge, a new one, might be wise to just be careful with your terminology.
I'm going to throw this out there because
Well,
I've
this
thought
is a
about it for a
guideline,
while.
it's not,
Yeah.
it's not what we're gonna do.
Have there ever been any murmurings of an inter-island bridge system?
Oh, there's no way that's going to happen. You mean from island to island? Oh, there's no way. And I don't even believe that I mean, you're talking about going into Cobra zones that could never happen
Okay. I'm
legally.
just thinking about like Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palms, down near Charleston, how they're connected, and it really helps when there's lots of traffic trying to get on and off the island.
Yeah. No, I mean, these things are supposed to last for 50 years. You talk to DOT, even the ones that they've done recently, and you tell them what the, I remember specifically when Sunset Beach was done, and I will not name the engineer, what's your plan for replacement? And they said, well, I hope in 50 years we have some new technology.
Oh, wow.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Beam me across.
Yeah, and so anyways, it's a tough, I don't know the answer to your question other than folks get so fed up that they just choose that they don't want to sit in traffic anymore and then they go somewhere else.
Where?
But could we not come up with, I know it's been tried before, could we not I think the backup starts with the left-hand turns. Is there
And
not a way to
there's-
reroute everybody
there's-
and no left-hand turn?
You can,
You're right, that is exactly the
there
problem.
there are methods you can have roundabouts and other,
I thought that had been discussed and there isn't room there.
and so I am not a transportation engineer.
Revolution Boulevard.
There are methods. Right?
There are methods. At this time, I don't believe that there's been any proposed
Do it every
recommendations.
day.
Do it in the summertime.
And this being a land use plan, we would take any recommendations that there were in place and put them in here.
Do it every day.
That's what I do, getting off, but
How about a stoplight from Memorial Day to Labor Day?
I was thinking the same thing.
That'd be a
Stoplights.
nightmare. Trust me.
Stoplight.
Why
We put
not?
a stoplight now.
Huh?
If traffic's bad now, wait till you gotta wait on the light when there's no traffic at the light.
Wow.
So, do you all want to add there could be some recommended actions here in the closer of the section if you feel like traffic is a concern and that you feel like it's something that should be studied. You can request studies of the GSATs or of NCDOT.
I personally think there should be a study during peak season.
Now, I would say that and I do believe that, I hope we have a recommended action in there about seasonal traffic counts.
You did. You
Yeah,
did.
so, because
Especially for emergency.
that program is no longer funded, so at a bare minimum, that would be a good thing for you guys to establish a baseline.
Well, to me, this is like a flashing red light for it to have in a land
No
use
pun
plan,
intended.
greatly exceeding the design capacity. Like,
Yes.
whoa.
But-
It's not uncommon.
But what got me was the measurement was done a few miles north of the bridge. How you
Okay.
know all those cars came across the bridge? You don't.
You don't.
Well, you just don't want to see something like that in an
Yeah,
official
but
document.
is that sentence incorrect?
The bridges don't go up
You
in New
measured
York.
3 miles north of the bridge.
There's
Yeah,
the map
they do.
that shows where the traffic goes on here somewhere, I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, it has 9,500 as the span that goes across the bridge. Now, again, these are average counts that NCDOT uses. They do not do seasonal counts anymore, and so it's the best available data we have without going out
So
there
when
and
did
doing
they
a
do the
count.
counts? Can you get
They
the
do
data?
them twice a year, and then they average them out. And they really, in my opinion, don't reflect what's going on in the beach communities.
When do they do them? February and
October.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, do we even know when?
I don't know when the ones in this region occur. Tim, do you know that answer?
Is that when those little black lines are across the
Yes.
street?
Yeah.
And I think
I
they,
can't even remember when it was.
I can't remember.
So the next time you see one, just stop back. Keep going.
Trust me, I've done that already.
I have a question for you. On the map, it says 9,500 going across the bridge, but here it looks like it's 7,700.
Yeah.
And then when I add these up, because if you come off the bridge, you have to go left or right. And we've got 6,500 to the west and 2,400 to the east, and those add up to 8,900. So I'm just trying to get all my numbers to.
The others just fall off the bridge.
Well, no, I mean, you where you're counting the one way down here.
Well, this segment, this orange segment says it's 6,500.
Yeah, but a lot of people could have gone into there that wouldn't be counted
Is
in
that
it.
6,500? I mean, is the 6,500 where it was taken, or is it for the segment?
The segment.
Yeah.
So they average the count across these segments.
Okay.
And they don't add it.
Well, and it's not a one-way count. See, I think that's what you're missing. Some
Yeah.
people may go and then not come back across it
For days.
for days, or not come back
Or they
across
could
it at
go
all.
off one of those side streets.
Or
beforehand
somebody
and
might
never
make
be
4
counted.
trips to,
I do need to
or
double
somebody
check
might
on
make
that.
4 trips to the grocery store that morning. That's
Say-
not going to be an accurate count in any direction that adds up.
And so you've got 12,000, and that's 7,000, that only leaves 5,000, but we got 9,500.
I need to double check on
Crossing
that
the bridge.
7,700 figure. That is either that 9,500 is labeling in the wrong spot, and or the 7,700 isn't labeling appropriately, but that should be corrected.
Okay.
Thank you.
So then the difference between 6,500 plus 2,400 is 89, and that's because
There
people
may,
don't go back across?
well, yeah, I mean, essentially, or there's other roads here that folks.
There's only one way on and off, so.
Correct, but they may not take Ocean Boulevard. They may,
Well, there ain't no other way to go but Ocean Boulevard.
Well, I'm
I
just
know,
asking
but
if it's for the
just
whole
right around
segment.
this area, for example.
Except they put the counter down at Brunswick Avenue, went down at High Point Street.
That's what I'm
Exactly.
asking. Where was the
Exactly.
counter? Is it?
And
I
how long do
believe
they
the
leave
station.
The counter?
I don't know.
Like, is it one
It
day,
depends.
2 days, a week?
They have their own traffic
That's the best
counting.
data
As
we've got, right?
yes,
Yes.
that is correct, and is
Wow.
why I recommend in all of the beach communities that you get your own counts, or encourage your MPO to do. See if they will come out and do some seasonal counts for you. The RPO, which unfortunately doesn't serve you guys, we do that, provide that service to some of our beach communities. I have been out there myself and done it.
I don't know if GSATs did a count or not, but I can find out. GSATs may have had a count. I can find out.
And I was also on the map, I was wondering why we didn't label Stone Chimney going all the way up there, because we kind of have 2 ways to get to 17 or 211, and that's Stone Chimney.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of like our 2 roads.
No, I understand that. If if the count was not high enough, then it wouldn't have triggered it.
Y'all know what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I know it's for some reason not shown there. And I remember I specifically.
Disclaimer on the plan, 100% accuracy of spatial data in current circumstances cannot be guaranteed.
I remember specifically asking and speaking with our GIS tech
Yeah.
why that data wasn't there, and if I recall, there was no
Stone Chimney's
data.
not even labeled.
It's
They call
labeled.
it Old Ferry Connector.
Well, I mean, up here it isn't labeled.
What's there?
I see it, I
It's
see
there,
where it
but yeah,
goes
it's
down
not
to
there,
the
it's not
waterway, but
labeled.
I'm saying once it turns north to go, or northeast to go to 211, I don't see a label on there anywhere.
Yes, section 3.
I mean, because it transitions to Stone Chimney at Stanberry, and so,
Where do you see Stone Chimney there? That's Holly,
yeah, it doesn't say Stone Chimney.
Barnacle,
anywhere.
Vermont. Stone Chimney, that's here. This is the road we leave here, and we go the Old Ferry Connection and on right there. We don't go down to the waterway this way. Old Stone Chimney goes all the way here.
So anyway, my point is
Yeah.
this like, is this
There
red
are-
flag?
Well, there's
Great
plenty
Lakes
of
Design
roads that
Investment.
you all go on if you drive into Wilmington that are over double capacity. So it's functioning at a
This
level
is North
E
Carolina way.
or F. It's unfortunately a lot of ways in communities that are experiencing population growth. So
Okay.
it's not uncommon. And I mean, it's the same thing with you guys. 'Cause, I mean, I remember I specifically asked and speaking with our technology GIS tech why there that data wasn't there. And if I recall, there was no data. I remember specifically asking and speaking with our GIS tech why that data wasn't there. And if I recall, there was no data. wastewater or water, right? Vast majority of the year, you're half or less. There's a couple days that. Now, I would be curious to know what your peak traffic seasonal count is. Is it 12,000, 15,000, 16,000?
It's nuts.
It's not, it is not the same.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, if our sewer overflows, we're not following from up there to our car. I mean, that's a big deal to me.
Well, yes, now I understand.
But the bridge is regularly monitored by some engineering group, and repairs are made almost yearly, and blah, blah, blah.
Yes, there is a bridge.
Too far. The bridge is too far.
Yeah, there's a bridge unit that monitors all the state bridges. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that you guys should keep. Probably, we maybe need to have some more recommendations in here about planning for it. You have one of the older high-rise bridges
85.
in the state. So luckily, you don't have. I don't believe you have a tremendous amount of erosion issues. You're not next to an inlet where you have some really scary situations other places in the state. But we can put some recommended actions in here if you guys feel like it's important.
I defer to the group.
Recommended actions for what?
Work with GSATs to pursue studies for.
I think
any
we
sort of
definitely would like to
change.
get a new.
Count. We
Yeah.
want an
I do.
updated count. We want-
And that is in there. So that is in there, and I do believe it. I think that's
All right,
important.
let's go back. What's the count got to do with the bridge? Tell me what the count's got to do with the bridge.
Capacity.
Okay, capacity, that's an NCDOT bridge.
Right.
Okay, all your wish lists in the world's not gonna change that. I mean, our town limits are limited to this side of the bridge. You know, there's maintenance going on that bridge right now. The state of North Carolina has their own plans and how they do things. I'm sure they have a count on that bridge, you know what I mean? Now, whether it's a count for us over here, I don't know, because people go up and down the road, but that's also a DOT road out there. So count specifics to us, you know what I mean? While that may indicate something for us over here, count specifics to us should probably be done by us if we want a true count, and should be done on all the roads, or all the main roads, like Brunswick Avenue. So, because that would be what I would deem important and indicative of what needs to be in the plan. But a wish list on what you want NCDOT to do, or to change out here on Stone Chimney Road or any place else, is, I believe,
Beyond
a
the
waste
Okay.
of your time in your land use plan.
Because we have no control.
It's just like asking to clean up the causeway.
How about that? I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on Stone Chimney, I do think that you guys can encourage GSATs to submit projects for you, or you can participate in submitting projects for your bridge. I think it's fair, but it is not your bridge. It is the state's bridge.
Well, on Stone Chimney, I just want the numbers on there to show, to reflect that that's how we exit the island.
Yeah, I'm quite certain, I'll double check again, that the data did not exist for the most up-to-date figures, but I will double check again. Because, believe me, as soon as I saw that map printed, I knew that the committee was going to ask that question. So, it's not my first rodeo on doing this.
Let me read this comment from Dwight. It's regarding page 4-6, traffic counts. Accounting for seasonal increases in population and traffic, OBW and OBE may exceed capacity during the summer months. This may be the place to talk about a trolley system for the island. This could be a public-private partnership that could run a trolley 7 days per week during peak season and a few days per week during the off-season. This could decrease traffic on the island, especially if off-island parking could be secured with trolley transportation provided for day visitors. Trolley could run between both ends of the island and up the causeway to Food Lion, Walgreens, and other causeway businesses. Costs can be shared by businesses, state and federal transportation grants, a town contribution, and a fee for riders. Many beach communities offer this form of transportation. A transportation system would also make the island more age-friendly for residents and tourists too young to drive or too old to drive. For some residents, a transportation system would allow seniors to age in place. So you guys probably saw the article that he's referring to, where one of the beaches up north has a trolley system that was provided. Looks like a giant golf cart. kind of cute, you know, they kind of tool around. So, you wanted to throw that out.
All we need is another golf cart to get behind.
This one's stopping every 50 feet to let people on and off.
Okay, I wanted to throw that out there for
That's when I
Dwight.
wish I had photon torpedoes on my car. So just,
Oh, no, you don't.
So
oh, yes, I do.
as far
40 miles an hour.
as that comment, do I need to put a note here to potentially address that under the policies and recommended actions, or do we need to address that?
So
in
what
the
I would
text
say
of
is
the-
let's drive back to what did our survey say? Is this the top 3 on our survey that we wanted to pursue?
I don't
Is it a
believe
top 5? Is it a top 10?
Yeah, traffic congestion was not necessarily
Exactly.
mentioned as a high priority item.
I think that's
Yeah.
why I think we should have the survey in front of
In the
us.
last month, I've been in traffic congestion. We don't have any here.
No.
Yeah,
Exactly.
apparently not.
Drop your name
Being
in
in Charleston or
front.
Raleigh.
Go through anywhere within 2 hours of DC.
Sounds to me like somebody ain't even been to Charlotte. Drive
down Main Street in
Shalot's a
Charlotte.
problem.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we're focused on that.
Yes.
What are our
No,
top
but-
things
Yeah.
from the survey?
Well, it's like we had said before, traffic's only a problem 3 or 4 days out of the year.
Exactly.
It really is.
And if you know when to avoid it, on Saturday mornings and Saturday at 4 or 3 or yeah,
It's like knowing when
Time
to go
to
to
go to
food
the
line and when
beach.
not to go to food line.
Go to
Exactly.
the beach when everybody else is leaving out and coming
That's
back
right.
home.
exactly.
Saturday
Saturday's the
morning.
best day for the beach.
Question on the first paragraph on 4-6. Does the bridge close when the wind's at
Yeah.
50 or is it 40?
We close
That's
at
It says 50. I had the same
Yeah, I
thing.
thought, yeah.
I thought.
Where is this?
Rhonda, I could have
It
sworn.
doesn't have
I think our
Under the
action plan calls for
Last
45.
sentence.
I think
Okay.
you're right.
I thought it was less than 40.
No, I think action plan is 45.
Well, we should be able to verify
the
that pretty easily.
Sustained
I
winds are
figured
at
we
40, or
had-
Gus.
We
Is it
had
Gus or
a
sustained?
little leeway there.
Let's put
It's 45, I think, is what it, I'd have to go pull it, just,
45.
I think it's 45.
Okay.
I can tell you when I get the action plan.
I've got one for you. What's the speed of the bridge?
Huh?
35.
Fast as you can go.
35, yeah.
Because it was designed to
Fast as you
40.
can hug
Fast
that
as you can
turn.
go.
Yes, sir.
Gun it when you get there, Vic.
And as soon as you get to
It's
the
fine.
end, it's
When
45.
you get to the end, it jumps up to 45.
Which is why it drives me
Causeway's
crazy
45,
when you're
yeah.
going there, and as soon as they get to the end, they put the brakes on. It's like,
You gotta be careful though, because
45 now.
you gotta be
Turn left.
careful because according to Ann, it collapses at least once or twice a year.
If you're sitting on
That's
it.
how
You
fake
can
news
move the
gets
bridge if you
started.
go fast enough.
I'm putting that on Facebook tonight.
Fake news.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got that about the 50 mile an hour?
Yeah.
Goes
So
on
we're
and
gonna.
stays in here.
So let's just rehash here. I'm gonna double check on the 7,700 to make sure that that is accurately corresponds with the map, the 7,700 figure. Other than that, we don't have any other changes here to transportation section except for the 45 mile an hour, at least on page 4.5. And is there something else on 4.6?
4.6 was the 50 mile an hour.
Yep.
Yeah,
And that
45,
is,
yep.
it says 50 on our website. The
It's
bridge
50.
will be
Okay.
closed to all traffic when high winds 50 miles per hour
Well, you might
sustained.
want to change your website if
You
that's
might wanna-
incorrect.
You might want to check
That's
something.
what's on
You
the
might want
website.
to check something because that was brought up last year. Now, I don't think it may have gotten changed, but I'm pretty sure the DOT's is at 45.
And that's under the bridge information.
Yeah. So we need to double check that.
Our police
don't-
department has a different, they can do different, or the commissioners can say
Mhm.
40 or 30 or whatever.
And it
Either-
does say that it can be closed at any time.
Yeah, but I think the DOT has a limit on it too.
So are we modifying it to 45, or we're gonna wait till we hear?
Let's wait.
Okay. All right.
I'll find out.
I think I saw something in here that said, you were talking about the new rail on the bridge. I don't
Yeah.
see it now, but I'm.
Currently, there are
Okay,
plans to
there.
install railing along the bridge for
Right.
safety measures related to bicycle and pedestrian use.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's why I was wondering if you wanted to put this planned refurbishment that's ongoing.
Right after they get through fixing all the major damage.
That falls in.
So they're not just closing it for the railings, they're going to do actually refurbishment?
Yeah, they're supposed to do every section.
Oh, and
right?
that's why it's going to
They're
take
supposed
them
to
so long.
resurface all the.
So following installation of railing, there'll be a planned refurbishment. Are they resurfacing? Do we?
They're doing some work to it.
Yeah, bunch of $10 million.
There'll be maintenance upgrades. Is that sufficient?
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
maintenance upgrades, and they're putting the railings on it. They're supposed to do them at night. It's supposed to be done at night. It's not supposed to interfere. But they're closing the boat ramp.
It's already closed. My husband tried to
Yeah.
get on yesterday.
Yeah.
And they say it might be closed till October.
Yeah, it's
Ooh,
possible.
buddy, there's gonna be
The
Some
some.
house
boat
movings across the island.
That's gonna be fun to watch.
Are you
People
saying the
come.
boat ramp or the bridge is closed?
The
off?
boat ramp.
Closed because of the danger of
Because it's
debris,
underneath
I
the
guess.
bridge. So if they're working on the bridge, nothing can
Falling
happen under the
chunks.
bridge, including possibly the festivals,
Well, you
right?
know, 3 or 4 people
They're at
got killed
risk.
last year when it collapsed.
All right.
That's
All right,
Whether
moving
you
right
got the boat,
along.
Yeah, it's all right about.
Are we on page 47?
Yep.
Yep, and here's from Dwight. Let me throw his comments out there. Table 4.3, Holden Beach GSAT's 2040 Long Range Transportation Plan. Project recommendation, widen NC 130 to 4 lanes with sidewalks. This project could be done in coordination with significant upgrades to the Causeway properties. In the past few months, I've asked many residents the following question: what is the one thing you would do to improve Holden Beach? And almost without exception, people start off by saying they would love to improve the Causeway to give a more beautiful approach to our island. Many
We
people,
don't have any.
There's a
Was that in our survey? Was
Many
that the top
people-
3 in our
hold on.
survey?
Yes. Many people assume that the causeway is part of the
Thank you.
island, and when they learn that it's not, they often respond that we should annex it. I personally think our committee should recommend the town study annexing the causeway.
All right, let's bring that up again.
Yeah, good luck.
There is a recommended action in your new, or there is a recommended action
Consider.
to consider. And I don't think that
It's in here later.
It's in the new material you get because that is more of a
Next
land
week?
use. Yes, that you're
Right.
given
Okay.
today.
But did you say annex or ETJ?
ETJ.
ETJ's already, isn't it?
No.
No.
We did away with that too?
What's
There's
ETJ?
no extraterritorial
Extraterritorial
jurisdiction.
I think that if we can,
That-
let's.
Only gives you control over land use issues.
That's
Regulatory stuff you don't have any control over.
I thought that you had to just provide one service, which could be
And it's
building
land use
inspector.
only.
Oh,
That's
really?
land use only. In other words, you can control the zoning, you can
Yeah.
control the way it looked, the way it was
The
developed.
way it looked?
The way it looked and developed, but you cannot, you know,
General code does not
like-
apply.
like your dog, like dogs on leash or stuff like that. Just regular regulatory stuff will not apply.
But do they pay taxes then if they're that?
No.
No, you would need
No,
to
they don't
annex.
pay tax. They don't pay taxes.
But we have to add them to our planning board, right?
Yes,
You have to put at least,
proportional
that's
representation.
right.
So we'd probably have one.
And, hold on, and it gets worse than that. Then, I'm trying to remember exactly how it works for the planning board, but it becomes then a little different planning board, especially when stuff is approved, because they don't have any representation on the board of commissioners. But they do have representation on
On the planning board.
on the planning board. which
Okay, but we're going
means-
to talk about that next month. So let's just wait till next month then.
Yeah, it's more of a land use issue unless you think that there's some sort of transportation concern that needs to be identified here about the causeway.
Grants have been applied for, by the way. There's a group of people that have applied for a grant to identify ways to improve. the causeway.
You know, the plan that we were talking about, that we found the map and all that, that was turned down because the landowners over there didn't want it. That's why, it was free. Causeway all the way down, Jordan Boulevard, all paid for, designed by the state and everything.
And
And
Leslie
everyone
Bell,
had signed to it.
Leslie Bell actually had some of the grants in place, and they literally shot it
Down.
Shot it down.
The landowners did. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
The county
Because
had
of the
actually taken it upon
signs.
themselves.
The signs in the parking, that
That's
was their
right.
biggest concern.
Well, it's because the UDO would have come into play,
Mm-hmm.
and, which it does now anyway, and it would have, at that time they were talking about it, they hadn't implemented it yet, and it would have pushed all the buildings out 150 feet away from the road with that overlay zone.
And it's two different
right.
setbacks already. Part of the road is
Which,
this wide, part of
which
that
is
one.
why 130 would be very hard. I heard somebody say something about improving 130. I don't know how, if he was talking away all the way to Schloter, just in that section right there. But that section right there would be your best bet. Beyond that, you're not going, people,
Here's what, it's right
there's an
there.
overlay zone all the way down 130, and people are not going to
47.
give up what they've got out there and be pushed back.
Well, this is the GSAT 240,
Yeah.
2040 Long Range Transportation Plan recommendations, right?
It's the causeway.
Yeah.
So that's not a done deal, that's just a recommendation?
That's just a recommendation. Yep.
I mean, that
That's
seems to
not
me
even
like,
on-
that seems
it's
a
not even
nightmare,
on
that you're
the-
gonna have 2 lanes going onto the bridge and talk about a bottleneck.
I don't think it was
How is
ever.
that gonna improve things?
I don't think that ever made it to the specific list or got voted on by GSATs to be done.
It's not funded. It's only part of a long range plan, that's 20 years out, and those plans change. But this is what the most closely related item to you all for a long range transportation plan.
By the way, evidence will bear out that if you have a 4-lane road, if you have a 2-lane road that's slammed with traffic on July 4th, you're going to have a 4-lane road that's slammed with traffic
Yes.
on July 4th.
Exactly. Even worse, because
Absolutely.
it's 2 lanes going to 1 lane, how's that gonna make anything better?
So, it
What a
may.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, improve the causeway was high on the list of things that people, we all
Yeah.
know we don't control it, but it is important. And I understand why, it is our front door.
I mean, there are other options besides adding lanes. You can still do trees and sidewalks and other things.
And I
There's a plan
think,
out there somewhere we worked on for years.
I think if you guys as a board can certainly reach out to GSATs, ask them to come do a presentation at your meeting, and maybe a wise thing to do. Tim doesn't want to, but
Nope.
I mean,
If you ever been in one of those meetings, you don't want
That's
to either.
kind of like,
Yeah.
There's nothing you're going to change having GSAT come here. There's too many partners. There's too many voting members. That stuff's set in stone. And anything that's happening right now is happening over there. It's not happening over here.
I understand, but you could at least let them, from the horse's mouth, explain what would have to happen for anything to get put on the ground over there.
Yeah, we're members of that GSAT.
I know.
And David could give the same presentation.
Well, then that could take place too. But
And if we tell David to do it, Tim's going to be doing
the
it.
merchants worked on it forever. That's what you're talking
Right,
about.
right.
What's
The
that?
DOT had it all planned out, we had a
Paid for.
beautiful plan.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
We saw the map, that's in that.
And I'm
Tim
telling
brought
you,
out.
the
George
county
Boulevard.
had partnered with them and it was a DOT grant. They had a DOT grant, and they had, what's it called? The low-income grants they do
Yeah.
for getting the sewer and all
Yeah.
that stuff, getting them hooked up
Step
over there.
grants.
Yep,
yep.
exactly right. I
Yep.
remember all of it
Because
because
Leslie's from that area.
right. And we were all, that's exactly right.
Yep.
We were all in meetings because we were working in those same meetings with Leland but that was a big one. That was a lot of interest in that. Mm-hmm.
All right. So are we good to move on then?
I did have one other question on page 47. You talk about what are planned from roadways and what all. We didn't include in there any maintenance like repaving OBW.
This is long-term facility upgrade type items. I don't know specifically what your resurfacing schedule is for OBW, but that's sort of
We don't. OBW is a NCDOT
Yeah.
road. They determine when it gets
That's
paved.
right, yeah.
I know, but we've got other stuff in here, and that's
Now
why
there
I was
is.
wondering.
We do have a paving plan for these other streets
Yeah, I know.
that's flying around here. That part of it's been funded, some of it's been done. You know what I mean? That is in the works.
So we don't have any idea when DOT's looking at it.
Which was, do you remember David
Yeah, I thought
confronted them
David-
about not doing OBW instead of messing with the bridge? Y'all don't remember that?
I
Put rails on the
I thought
bridge
something
instead of
came
paving
out of
OBW?
I thought DOT said that guy was.
They said they would look into it. It was Anthony Law said he would look
But it
into
didn't, I thought something happened with that. They were gonna do
I
something.
hadn't heard anything.
Okay.
Can't swap out funds from one to the other, is
That's
that?
what he said.
Right,
Yeah.
on that deal.
Probably only
Yeah.
who that got up and ranted about the boulevard that night.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Well, and road repairs is in here, and I don't think people understand the difference between NCDOT versus town roads, they think OVW is the town's responsibility. So I think that when people comment on the survey, that's what they're
Well,
They're
but,
addressing.
but, you know, if people's knowledge of not understanding how things work does not mean that because they comment on it, that you're somehow gonna change the world and make it work.
No, I understand that. I just think that it's important for other people to understand and for us to.
And I know I sound kind of hard when I say these things, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you pick up the phone right now and you call Brunswick County Commissioners and tell them that you want 130 paved, they're going to tell you that's an NCDOT road. They don't have any, because the worst thing you can do is start picking up the phone and tell NCDOT what you want them to do. Now, I promise you that's the worst thing you can do. I'll give you an example. Walter Futch fought that bridge going across,
Sunset.
fought that bridge going over there to Wilmington. He
Oh.
fought it hard. At the same time, he fought the I-40 that was going around Leland. It was supposed to come out where all that flooding was over there, and he fought it and fought it and fought it. And he got them in a meeting, just like was happening here, and he started telling them that they were wrong and everything. They finally looked at him and said, well, we'll look at all of our options and bring them back to you. The very next meeting, they brought him an option back. Do you want to know where the new I-40 was? Right through the middle of his office. And he never brought it up again. Because the NCDOT is a pretty powerful entity.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got more roads in North Carolina than I think any other state in the union. And they are a powerful entity. And you can put political pressure on them, but typically it does not work. Grants, asking them for help, does work. But do y'all remember when they come down here when we decided we were going to paint lines across the road and they told us we did it again and we're going to start arresting people?
That's exactly
That ain't been too long
right.
ago.
I remember that.
It's their road. And I know I sound like I'm advocating for NCDOT,
You're
but what I'm
not.
telling you
I know.
is that
It's
it's
reality.
easy, it is reality, and it is a harsh reality. I live on a dirt road that's an NCDOT road, been a dirt road for 60 years. It's the first road to Walkamaw School. Do you think that if I could have got NCDOT to pave it, I could have, anybody in my family, we'd already done it? You know what I mean? They're not going to do anything they don't want to do. They're doing the bridges because there's an initiative.
And they would just as well
Yeah.
turn that road over to you guys. I can tell you that right now. They don't want to maintain your road, not the least bit.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So,
Yeah, you want
Okay.
that road? Let's go get it.
yeah. All right.
Okay, are we on page 4.8?
Yes.
I had a typo on the paragraph right underneath recreational opportunities and public access facilities.
Mm-hmm.
It should be sites, S-I-T-E-S, instead of sites, as you're looking at it.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
we're
where?
looking at it. It's cute.
I had one thing also.
Access sites.
C-S-I-T-E.
I'm on 4.8 at the very end, talking about Bridgeview Park. I want to mention the splash pad.
Hold
Is what
on,
I meant.
sorry. Oh, yeah. Public. Jeez. Jeez. Okay. Yes. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Splash pad, talking about Bridgeview Park. There's now a splash pad there.
There is? Okay.
Don't we have laundry and da-da-da-da?
Yeah, there's bathrooms, laundry. So they
So I have a question about Bridgeview Park and the dock and the kayak launch. Is that dock open to the public, or is it only for transients? Because I've heard different things that a boat can't pull up there if they're out
It's
for
open
the
to the
day because it's only for transients.
So there's
Any
two kayak
comment from
launches
the?
there.
No, she's saying that's right.
It's true.
Kayak launch.
If you're out on your boat, you can't dock up at that dock because
No, I'm
it's
serious.
only for transients, which doesn't seem right
That's
to
right.
me.
That's true.
You pay by the foot, right?
I
That's
don't know
right.
how they pay,
That's
but
right.
it's only open to people.
It's by the
that pull up
foot.
there.
Yeah, it's by the foot.
But you
Pad.
can't pull
You
up there
reserve
for
it.
5 minutes or
You
an hour.
reserve it, and you
And
That was the- that
even
was
if I
the-
wanted to pay
that
for
was
it.
the rules you agreed to when you took
when
Absolutely.
it
the
was
grant.
constructed.
Yeah.
When you took the grant,
That
that
was
was the
part of
rules
it.
you
That's
agreed
right.
to.
It was.
That was part of it.
That it's only for transients, like it's not open
Only
to the
for
public.
transient
No.
boats.
Okay, so you need to specify that. It's not a dock for the public. It's only for
Well,
transients.
if the public has a boat,
They'll stay
If the
there.
public's transient,
that's right.
Yeah.
But the public,
The
it's not
public
open to.
The transit public. but
Yeah,
the word
you need to be
transient.
specify that because that's
Yeah, it's not
that's
us.
not
Well,
open
now, that's
to
only
us.
for docking. They can use the kayak launches but it's only for docking overnight.
As well.
No, not docking overnight. I wanted to go there for an hour, and I was willing to
No,
pay.
no. I just said you can't. You can only dock there it's up for transients only. You can't pull a boat up there and get out and moor it and hang out. And I guess unless you pay.
I wanted to pay, and they said you absolutely cannot. It's only for transients.
Only for overnight, you mean?
Right.
I
I think
think-
so.
I
It's
think
overnight
that's the case.
transients.
So, as well as an overnight transient dock, is
Right.
that sufficient?
But the kayak launches you can use. They can go down and use. They can't fish off of it.
Right.
How you doing with the kayaks
Thanks.
there?
You gone?
They tow them from
Yeah,
the
you
parking lot
tow
right
them.
there. Or they have those little wheel things that wheel.
Yeah.
And there's a handicap. There's actually a handicap kayak launch there. That was part of the grant.
Okay. Splash pad, overnight transient dock. All right.
What else is
Now,
there?
anyone can use the bathrooms, but you can't use the shower and the laundry, right?
Correct.
Is that
That's
correct?
the key or
Yes.
access.
That's
to
part
That's
of
when
the-
you pay,
Yeah,
when
that-
you
That
pay,
was part of the
that's
grant,
part of your package,
for the grant.
is to
Grant
use the
requires-
laundry.
In order to have a transient dock, you have to have a place for the for the laundry and the shower and that kind of
Is
stuff.
there a shower in where the laundry is?
Yep. There's a shower in each one of the,
Not in
There's
the
a-
I
there's
don't
a
know
shower
about the
somewhere,
shower.
yeah.
It's not in the
Uh-uh.
bathroom.
there's a shower in there
I know there's
somewhere.
laundry.
Yeah. No, there's a laundry. I thought there was a shower over there too.
So,
And there might be, I don't know, but I know there's laundry.
Yeah.
I can't remember in the shower.
Might not be a shower there. You'd think I would know.
Okay, so anybody else have anything else on 4.8?
No, but I like the fact that you say it lacks physical bicycle infrastructure, because later we talk about, there's really, you have all these routes on your thing, but really they're just roads. I mean, there's
Correct.
no difference between the road and where you say the bicycle can go, so really it should be every road, because the ones that are marked aren't really bicycle.
they don't have dedicated facilities.
Right.
I think we said that, or it should be in there.
You do, but we should talk
Yep.
about, we'll talk
Okay.
about it later
Okay.
with your recommendations.
Okay.
Okay, so then on page 4.9, Greg's got a thing on here that he wants to reduce the smell from the pump station, question mark, at the pavilion.
Well, with everybody else.
So that wouldn't be
Who
in
put that?
here of what we have,
This
it would
is
be
Greg's.
a note for later for a
He just
recommendation.
had to leave.
Oh,
Oh, he's gone?
Yeah, that would need to be a recommended action.
you're getting gas masks. Hand out gas masks.
Yeah.
This has been before.
I mean, that is bad. You got that
They've
beautiful
raised the
pavilion
pipe,
there,
they've
and,
pointed the
and
pipe away.
it smells like raw sewage when you have any kind of activity there. It's bad.
Well, in that particular case, the rotten egg came after the chicken.
Okay.
Well, the chicken came after the rotten egg.
Can't
I'm
steal
sorry.
yours.
Oh, sure. That's
Thank
fine.
you.
They built the
I brought-
pavilion
I thought
there
you
when they
were-
knew what it smelled like.
Yeah.
Right.
I got more if I need to get it.
There's
Poor
nothing you can
planning.
do. What can you do?
They've
It's
tried
like
it
putting
once.
light blue lines on the dark blue thing out there for your
Okay.
court.
So, do
Oh,
we?
wow.
Is there anything on 4.9 that's needed?
I think he wanted you to say Holden Beach Fitness Trail, maybe parentheses, park course. Everyone calls it the park course.
Holden Beach Fitness Trail
/ park course.
/ park course. PAR.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Is that supposed to be physical and recreation? PAR, physical and recreational
I thought it
course?
was like golf. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's what it
So
stands
it would be
for.
capital. It's like
I was here.
Okay.
I was here when it was done. It's
Okay.
physical and
PA.
recreational.
Okay. PAR. All
Yeah.
caps.
Yeah,
Okay.
that stands for physical. and
We
Yep.
also
Okay.
had upgrade each end for HBBC efforts, which is
Say that
news to
again?
me as a HBBC lady. Upgrade each end, I think he means upgrade the landscaping maybe?
On the park
Can
course?
you read it again?
Yes.
We're supposed
No,
to
just
have
read
palm
that.
trees there, but we never did.
Upgrade
No, they
each
got
end per
destroyed in public
HBBC
hearing.
efforts.
So is that
The end of the
that'd be a
park course.
recommended action?
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
just
so.
part of the fitness trail. He's
Yeah,
saying.
it's like landscaping.
There were originally supposed to be 115 palm trees with that.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody said palm trees were ugly. They did. I was there.
I didn't hear that, I just stood up.
You didn't say you wanted palm trees? You don't want to say you didn't want palm trees.
I didn't say I didn't want palm trees, no, sir. I
Okay,
would
anybody
love
else
palm
have anything
trees.
on 4.9?
That whole good business.
4.10? I had a comment on Sand Dollar Park that there's no launch, but there is beach-style access for kayaks.
Okay.
And it's a very popular kayaking location.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Informal kayak launch, something to that effect.
Where are we doing?
Under Sand
Sand
Dollar
Dollar
Sand
Park.
Dollar
Park.
describing Sand Dollar Park.
Okay. Is,
Kayaking launch.
is Sand Dollar, didn't we put a bulkhead there?
You did, but there's still a lot of people that are.
Dragging their stuff down there?
Yeah, and if you go far enough to one side, you get around it.
That's in, they're launching in the
Marsh.
AEC down there. Let's get right on that.
Hey, it's like a hot spot for people that want to kayak. So
All right.
They need to go there, Chanel.
Anything else in 410 or 411?
That's something like that.
yep. On 4.11 from Greg, he's got under Sailfish Park a small observation / fishing deck.
Is there? Here it
Okay,
is.
okay.
Observation / fishing.
That's what he's.
Yeah, people stand there and fish.
Okay.
Sailfish would be more acceptable to a kayak launch. Sailfish, before we put it in the bulkhead, the people were actually launching boats at the end of that one. The other one, the bulkhead, has a drop on it, but you're talking about dragging it down to the end. But this one, Sailfish, it would be a better kayak launch.
I just know that I can see a lot of action going on down at that park with people with kayaks. Popular spot.
Yeah, I know, but this one here, before we put in that bulkhead there, people were actually putting their boat in there. It was so shallow. It's like a beach right there at the end
It
of it.
is.
Yeah. If I was going to put recommend a kayak launch, it'd probably be at the end of that one.
Well, I'm not recommending a kayak launch for the other one. I'm just saying that there's a lot of that goes on there.
Oh, okay. There is I can't remember, is it Sailfish or the other one that has the little pier look out at the end of it, at the end of our
That's
bulkhead?
selfish.
That's
Sailfish.
Yeah.
Is that Sailfish?
And that's the one he's saying is also
Yeah.
for fishing.
Yep,
Yep.
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 They were on 12 and 13?
12 I do.
Okay.
1085, there is a current camera access.
Sorry.
1085 Ocean Boulevard West, there is a dedicated, and it is
So we need to add that one. Okay.
handicap access.
Okay.
And also coming, and you might know more about this, Rhonda, 289, I've heard that they're
Is
getting
a
ready.
walkway. It's coming,
There's a walkway
access way
coming there.
between 289 and 291.
There's also one at 883.
883 is a camera.
883 OBW.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with that one.
I don't think that's the way it's numbered.
It's not numbered like that.
It's not numbered that address. It's
Yeah.
It's 883 and a half.
885 is not a public. That's the one you're talking about. At the end of Dolphin.
it.
Yeah.
It belongs to Dolphin. Does it have a camera sign on it?
I think I lost it.
It may, but I don't.
Which one? What's the camera access at 800 block?
It's
at-
between.
801.
There is one on 801.
Yeah, it's between. Yeah, it's 801.
No, I
it's the whole
thought, I
lot
thought
of
there was
it.
one closer to the 900 block.
Yes.
There is. There's one there at the end of Marlin.
There's
Down,
one on
down.
917 as well.
That's it. That's
And there's
That's
one at
it.
885. I just don't know if it's
If it's
at the end of
there,
Dolphin and between Dolphin and
What was the one
There's a
mentioned?
lot of them down
Or
that way.
1085 and then
289.
289.5 is coming.
Between
Okay.
289
in
and
place yet.
291. It's not in place
Well, you
right
should
now.
put it on there because
Okay.
we're going to be.
it'll be done.
Right.
So
It's
289.
approved, right? And it's going to happen.
5.
Yes.
0.5
and the other one's 1085.
Ocean Boulevard West.
Yes.
Have we issued a permit for 289?
No.
Is that
Yeah.
a
There-
handicap?
It's just it's in the process of the grant.
And it will be handicapped?
Yeah, but we
You can put in parentheses TBD.
I don't know if it's going to be handicapped. I don't know if there's enough room for it to be handicapped.
When you say handicap, can you explain what that is? Because there's a lot of these that are marked handicap.
This is, I believe, what the
They're no.
NCDEQ and CAMA refer to them as being handicap accessible. This information came from them.
Then I think you need to check it because I don't think that's correct.
Okay.
I know 1085.5 is, because they've got that blue.
301
Plastics.
has got stairs going down, so I don't think that's very handicap
No.
accessible.
not for all handicapped people. A blind person could go down.
Well, that's what I'm asking. How do you define handicap accessibility?
It is. I am not the one who determined it.
Okay. We
So
pulled all this
You
up when
can
we were
access
looking
it,
at
you
parking
just can't
and
get off of it.
I mean,
a
we
lot
can
of
just
those
take the
yeses.
column out.
it's good to know. I mean, some
Yeah.
of these truly are handicap accessible. And it's a hot topic that people want to know where if my grandma's got in a wheelchair, where can I get her on the beach? But
This is where
All
CAMA
of
says
these
you
are-
can get her on the beach. So I can
I know
go
about
check
that.
them myself.
okay.
Short of that, which I'll check them myself.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Was, you can get a sunset here in a little bit.
Yep.
I don't remember there being this many handicapped
I only
accesses
remember
on
Yeah.
there.
Fair enough.
It does seem like a lot.
That's true.
I will give you that.
But
We
there-
have a few, but I looked at the CAMA site when we were doing the parking thing. Remember I brought all
we
that
had
junk?
we had them all marked up at one time.
But I know at 301 it's got stairs, so and I'm sure that CAMA does not show it as handicap. It's got a ramp going up and then stairs going down because that's
Does 801
right next
have
door
a
to
ramp?
me.
A boardwalk? I thought it
It's
was
got a ramp
drive
going
over.
up, but then it
I
has
thought
steps
it was a
coming down.
drive over.
But there's a drive over and there's a walkway
And there's
right
one
beside
beside,
of it.
okay.
You ramps up and then steps down.
And the walking is handicap accessible. If you
Yeah.
can
That's
walk
right.
over it, it's
Yeah, it's
handicap
walk over.
accessible.
Because you can walk over where we drive over.
Yeah.
I'll double check.
Okay.
Yeah, you can push a wheelchair through there.
And this may
I
have
think-
also
I think
come
people
from the
look at
Parks
it
and
different.
Recreation Master Plan. I'm
I have a
not sure.
question for this group. I read on our wonderful Facebook pages that somebody contributed a handicapped wheelchair, but we did not accept it. I'm just asking, not for community knowledge, just for my own.
I have no idea.
When you say we, are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at you.
I have
Because I can tell you that somebody said, Tim, I'm going to contribute a handicapped wheelchair to the beach. My first answer would be yes. So I'll answer that for you. If they asked me, then I would have said yes. Now, if somebody else around here said no, then we wouldn't be me. It would be them you need to ask.
I haven't been asked.
Just get that straight.
I definitely
Well, I
haven't
mean,
been
every
asked.
time somebody says something, they look at me like what did you do, man? What you done now?
I have no idea.
How much caffeine have you had?
I've
The
had
herb-
none.
the herb-
I've
the guy
had
that saved
none.
herb.
I have had some really good night's rest, so you might want to be careful. I'm on my
You
game.
can start texting him. all right.
Not
Just
me.
wanted- I think that would be a good
2-year-old is
service.
killing me. All right,
Okay, good luck.
4:30 this morning.
One of you still look young. Give it another year or two.
Okay, so we need to double check. I will double check on handicap accessibility. Go with our best available data. Question: anything else on 412?
Well, you're adding those two walkways,
Yes, 289.5 and 1085.
5.5.
1085.5.
right? 1089. But no. 1085, 885, and 289.
No, they said 885 wasn't right.
We
There's
don't
none of
know
those-
which 885
There is
is.
there's absolutely not a single one of them things right. I promise. Well, there might be one.
I don't know about the 885 being,
But that's why, because
But
most
she
of them,
doesn't-
the addresses
she
are by
doesn't think
halves.
it's,
Yeah.
CAMA.
So I don't know where we. I guess I gave him them numbers, or somebody gave him those. But
It might be on your
Yeah.
town website.
those have been updated. Me and Rhonda updated every address, and
Because the
99.9%
signs are
of them are like
0.5?
111.5.
Because they're between.
they've
Because
got
they're between
signs
houses.
on the post
Yeah.
of the address. It's a good job. I did a good job.
I got a
really
list. You want a list?
Yes.
I got a list. We had to order
He
the
looks
signs.
over.
Someone told us to fix it. We actually we have signs on the dunes that reflect at night, so so that there's some on the road, and then there are ones at the dunes that reflect, so the police officers, when they're out there rescuing people, can shine a light up there and see them. We did that as well.
But those
Just
do
in case
not
someone gets a
correspond to
hand.
the address, right?
Huh?
They don't correspond to the address.
They are the address.
They are the address.
885.5 or
They are address.
1085.
It would be
They've been
between two
recorded at-
addresses.
they've been
That was the only
recorded.
way to number them because the addresses already
Right.
exist. And
And
we
we got-
had to
But there's a
coordinate
number.
with 911.
We had to coordinate with
We had to coordinate
911.
with what they
and-
agreed with too.
And trust me, don't talk
Yeah.
to us about this, because we had to buy 3, 4 different numbers. We had to do some of them 2
Yes,
or
we
3 times.
did. Yes, we did.
Yeah,
But we had to
yeah,
coordinate with
yeah,
them
you
and the
stay away
police
from that one.
department to get this done.
All right.
There's a lot of work put into that.
There was-
4.13.
Yep.
Hang on,
Okay.
one question. This is a big boating community, besides the fact I'm worried about the boat ramp being closed till October now.
Well, you just have to do like everybody else. You have to find somewhere to boat, to launch your boat.
I know.
There's a place over there at Brick Landing, guaranteed to destroy your boat. It's brand new too.
I know. But, I mean, the fact that it's such a big boating community, should this be a whole separate, the boating facilities be more of a separate paragraph as opposed to 2 sentences stuck at the top of this page?
Sure.
What page?
Just
412.
just want to call them boating access facilities or something to that
Yeah,
effect.
But there are none.
There's just
There's
that one,
some.
so what do you
Well,
mean?
you got the kayak ramps too that we mentioned.
And right over the bridge, it's not on yours, but I mean they provide
Yeah.
dry storage.
You
That's
know,
pretty close.
So on that second to last sentence, you can say it's a transient dock again, please.
Yes.
Since the public can't use it.
yeah,
Whoops.
for transient.
Ridiculous.
You can use it if you don't ask. Just use it.
Oh, they catch you, man. I've
They
seen it.
do.
Oh, they catch you.
It's right across from the police station. Hello.
Woo!
But if the public can use it, all the public
What's
can
your
use
name,
it.
ma'am?
So, you know, you might not even ever had a chance to pull up there if it's packed with the public. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
the
that was in the
public
grant.
docks are sometimes not a
Granted,
place
the
I want
public
to
can't
be.
use it.
I
That's
wasn't
my
part of it.
experience.
That's Christie's
Talking about that,
item
the what?
over there.
All right. So
Park.
Yeah.
Rhonda, you know you were the mastermind behind that, the whole thing. Trying to
And
I
neither
had to get
was I.
permits.
All right.
Oh,
I
that's
got a
right.
couple.
I
got a
done my
couple
part.
more.
I didn't
Sure.
have nothing to do with that part.
We talked about parking in chapter 1. If you remember back. We-
chapter 2. Yeah.
Chapter 1 or 2.
Yep.
Two, you're right, 2.
Yep.
2.
How are we going
But-
back?
What page is that?
Since that's
I
a
don't know.
community facility, does parking belong better to this chapter?
Well, you guys need to tell me what you want for parking, because it seems to me that there is no consensus here. And so, short of that, I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, what
Well-
do you know what I mean? I'm
Well, you
sorry, that's not
described-
fair.
You described the parking facilities in chapter 2.
In
All I'm
relation
saying-
to seasonal visitation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying debate whether we need more
Yeah,
parking or
yeah.
not. I'm saying those set of facts, or would it be better in chapter 4 than chapter 2?
That
Well, it's
we can
addressed 42F.
we can add a section on parking. I need to know what the numbers are. My concern is I believe that the numbers are not.
Policy 42F,
Fact,
you
I
do
guess.
say demand for parking. Key locations to better estimate.
I think whatever we
Policy
had said
14.
before, we don't want to rehash it again, do we?
Well,
No,
there
we
was
have still a lot of questions
there
to
was
go get
debate.
answers.
Yes, there was debate over what was what in terms of parking,
Yes.
and I still don't have that.
Okay, so
information.
you don't have your final answer for that.
And I'm not debating.
And Tim's the one really to get that
Okay.
information from because he has it all.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't debating what's
Okay.
the content, I'm just saying the location.
Where did
of
He
the
just wants
He's
the
wondering
facts.
if
He
we could
doesn't
bring
want to
that
debate, do we
information.
need more, do we
Gotcha.
need more, should it be there, should
Should
it
it be
be,
in chapter
what are
4?
the facts? Just because we're doing the facts of all the other stuff, but we don't, he's not clear
What?
on the facts.
Well,
That's right.
What, I agree
it's
with you,
part
it's
of
clear as
it's
mud.
part of your seasonal stuff, right? So why wouldn't we reference?
He said, so it's in the seasonal
we just
chapter.
reference it? Yeah.
What is this?
This community facilities,
Right,
which to me is parking.
I do think so too.
In chapter 2, it's there in relation to seasonal visitation, day visitors. But if you want, we can add a paragraph and the
Should be
total
parking.
of the parking on this. It'd be recreational opportunities, public access facilities, and parking would be the last section. I just need to know what the numbers are, and to, you know,
Why can't we just reference in here, briefly, reference what we put in chapter 2?
Perfect.
Sure, that
Perfect.
works
That's
too.
fine.
Good
That's what I
idea,
just said,
Ed.
like, you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to reference
Good
it back to that, that's what I was
Good
saying.
idea.
Yep. And I'll put that somewhere. I'll probably put this under the header for recreational opportunities and public access facilities, that parking is discussed in chapter 2.
And then last, do we need to say anything about medical facilities or their lack of?
Why?
It's a community facility.
We don't have any.
We don't have any.
Sure.
I mean, do we need to make reference to the closest hospitals still there with 2 of them or?
Down
Sir-
that stone chimney that doesn't exist on that. That we never go down.
Some communities choose to do that in their plans, talk about medical facilities, this, that, or the other. It's up to you guys. If you want us to add a paragraph about medical facilities, we can do that.
They're available in Brunswick County.
Yeah, I mean, is that? I mean, this is a question of a
Yeah, I'm
committee
raising the
member.
question. I
Yeah. Do you guys want to address it?
If
Do
it's
you feel
not
like
there, I think
important?
you can assume we don't have any, right? Should we talk about
Yeah.
other things that we don't have? I mean, if it's not there, we don't have it.
Well, this is
We're not
plan.
planning
This
on
is our
adding it,
plan.
right? We're
Yeah,
not
I was getting ready
adding
to say,
it.
are you planning on having a hospital?
Exactly. Do you want an
I
urgent
don't
care? I
understand
mean,
that.
it's not something that we're gonna like pursue.
And if we did, how would it affect our community? I mean, that's,
The fire department
Then all the sick
provide
people come.
emergency medical service.
yeah. The
Well,
first
during-
responders.
During the summer, they're on the.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Yeah.
have ambulances and fire people come and give
Yeah,
your
do we
first
have that? Do we have that? Do we have
We
response
did not. You
medical
don't
care
have to
for
address it, but it's not
heart
like-
attacks and
We can
injuries.
add fire and EMS if you want.
Well, the reason I say that is because there is an important aspect, is that we do maintain
Fire,
a satellite fire station on the island during peak season.
yes.
And the town supports it. The town actually
Well,
supports it.
yeah, that
pays
was
the
on the
bills.
list too, is fire protection. We don't have anything listed.
So
there,
we can
fire
add, so it sounds to me, consensus is not bother with medical facilities, add fire and EMS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we have and it's located in the 600 block.
That's easy to do.
Which is supposed to be more central, right? Are we still on 13?
13.
Or have we moved to 13?
Are you done, Woody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now we're on 13.
So I have a question on the very last one on 13. Encourage the county to provide additional
Yeah.
sewage treatment to residents outside of town boundaries.
Me too.
Why
I have
do
two
we
big
care?
fat question
Exactly.
marks.
We don't care about outside of town boundaries, do we?
This was a recommended action in your previous plan. If you care about water quality, it would be the only reason why you would care.
Yeah.
So
But-
it's
Yeah, if they've got on-site wastewater on the other side of
Yeah.
the waterway,
yeah.
they're literally
Yeah.
nullifying anything
Yeah.
we did with
Yeah.
on-site sanitary sewer.
Mhm.
When they
They're
do-
still dumping it in your
Waterway.
AEC out there.
So could that be part of our ETJ if we do that?
Well, I mean, it can be part of your.
I wouldn't.
I mean,
Big area.
I think that, listen, of everything y'all discussed so far, I think that belongs in a land use plan more than anything y'all discussed yet. Because that literally is, you want to go outside to help to improve the environment inside.
so
And so you're encouraging the county to provide additional sewage. You're not encouraging them to get it, you're encouraging the county to provide it.
Tracy, maybe what we need to say here as a means to enhance water quality, or something to that
To
effect.
protect our open areas and,
Is that
yeah.
Yeah, somehow, how does it
Environmental
affect
quality.
us?
Yeah.
Not just to the outside, it
That's
just
right.
makes sense if you're just doing it for outside residents. How does it affect us?
Water quality.
Yeah, that's good.
As it relates to our work.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I've got a question on recommended action 4.2.B.1. Continue to install and plan for the replacement of aging water lines and investigate whether other improvements in water supply system are needed to serve a growing seasonal population. I do not feel that we need to do that.
okay?
And
Where's
you
this
can
at?
see it's 4.2.B.1.
So we
Recommended
just
action.
leave it as continue to install and plan for the replacement of the agent, or
No,
just
I
take the whole
don't think
thing.
we need to even do that. We did a report, HDR did a report and came back and we have huge lifespan left on these pipes.
Well, let's take it out.
So I don't think that we need to.
That's good
continue to do
news.
that.
I had not heard of that.
She's gonna share that report with us.
You guys want it? I can get yours. Okay.
And then we're all good with the one,
I'd always
two
heard
down,
that
monitor
for-
water consumption figures and plan for the
Wrong.
purchase of additional
They're
water
good. They
supply.
don't make
So
all
we're,
that anymore.
we've
I
covered
understand.
ourselves that we're
I know
monitoring our
some people
water.
like that too.
What about the policy 42A, provision of town services? We don't provide regular utilities. And of course, when you expand, whenever you add an extension to the sanitary sewer line, the developer is always required.
Well, it says all that.
Yeah, I understand that, but what about when you're extending power lines? When you extend power lines, then that should be
This-
also to the developer.
This, okay.
Yeah, we have several, we have
utilities.
roads where the utilities have not been extended to the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we've had a situation with this already, that if the developer wants to continue to develop down there, then it should be their
So
responsibility.
you're saying just add electrical?
Well, it should say,
Oh,
Provision of
utilities.
town water and sewer, and then
Utilities.
connection to water and sewer lines. Get rid of the first sentence.
No, he wants to add.
oh,
He
it
wants
needs
to
to add-
add.
Oh, okay.
it needs to
Electric.
add any additional utilities. Because we don't provide phone, we don't provide
Well,
electrical, we
no,
don't
I
provide cable.
understand that. Yeah. So
He wants to expand on it, not to make it.
Yeah, it should say if water and sewer upgrades or expansion are required for new development, then the improvement should be at the expense of the developer. I guess it could say something that.
this
also
may include any additional non-town provided.
Utilities, yeah, this is exactly what it needs to say. That really should be enough.
I can make that a lot shorter, but
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, and Greg's got one here on 4.2, goal 4.2. He wants to know to ensure that the public infrastructure systems are appropriately sized, located, and managed to serve the town's population while ensuring the quality and productivity of the AECs and other fragile areas are protected and restored. Based on what standards is his question?
Well, that's up to. This is straight from the 7B guidelines, the goal that we have to have in here.
Okay.
I don't know what standard it is. You guys are establishing the standard by presumably doing these things to help improve and protect your areas of environmental concern.
The infrastructure system are appropriately sized, located, and managed to serve the town's population while ensuring the quality. What they're talking about is that your sewer system not capable of handling that sewer and dumping into the AEC. That's what that's describing. It's describing an environmental hazard because you don't manage your facilities and keep your stuff up. That's
And
what it's talking about.
That's why we have to talk about capacity in this,
That's right.
in this chapter.
That's what's in there.
Anything?
Policy 42E is the best thing we've got yet. That's all those discussions that y'all had already.
42E.
Yeah, it says the town supports state and federal bridges and road improvement programs in efforts to reduce traffic congestion on the island and along road corridors leading to the bridge. So you're telling them that you want them to do everything possible and that you're hoping they will. And then it goes to continue to work with the NCDOT and GSATs to help improve traffic conditions both on the island and surrounding areas as a result of the growing seasonal population and growing population on the mainland and areas near Holden Beach. Well, we're already fulfilling part of that because we're a member of GSAT. Now, I don't know that we've done anything to discourage NCDOT, but, you know, if there's things that people want to see in the town, then it should probably come as a resolution from county commissioners, from the town commissioners, you know what I mean, asking for such. And then that is what you've all been talking about, but, you know, we don't need to put in there that they need to repave it by the year 1212, and you follow what I'm saying? So that's the what y'all have all been discussing.
so we need a resolution to get a traffic count.
Well, what I'm saying is that the way to handle that is that you get your politicians to do the we don't need to put it in a land use plan.
No.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
Are we on 414 or is there more on 413?
I
414.
think we moved over to
Okay,
14.
all right.
Everybody good with that?
Yep. All right, 414.
I've got one on 4.2.c.2 at the very top of the page, talking about sewer capacity. Didn't we decide that we have enough?
Yeah.
Where are we at now?
Very top.
Very top of
first
14.
line.
Yeah.
Very tippy top of 414.
Yeah, we can take that
First
off.
line, top of the page. So we're gonna take that 42C2 out.
Mm-hmm.
I had one from Dwight on page 414. He wants to add recommendation 4.2.h.3. The town will work with NCDOT to provide safer crosswalks across OBE, primarily at Jordan Boulevard and possibly at other heavily traveled crossings. This could include stop signs or flashing lights. Many BC, I think he means NC beach towns, already have these safer crossings in place. Here again, these safer crosswalks would make the island more age-friendly for both our younger and our older residents and visitors.
We were supposed to get 5 crosswalks, right?
That one actually I can support
That was
from a
years
safety
ago.
standpoint.
4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years
What
ago.
harm is that?
So, the way to handle this, and also H1 and H2, they are worded incorrectly, and that's my fault. That should say pursue and pursue, and the town shall, because these are actions.
Yep.
But if you want to leave the crosswalks in there or safety facilities in there, I would just say work with NCDOT and the planning and zoning board to establish locations rather than putting the specific ones in there. And then also, I would adamantly encourage the town to pursue grant funds to do a full-blown bike ped plan. I think would identify all of that, and everything would be prioritized. So you're not sort of saying we want it here or there.
So will you make that as a recommended action then?
Yes, I highly
It is on H2.
support that one.
Okay.
And then, but I will add H3 if you want. Work with NCDOT and the Planning and Zoning Board to identify potential locations for crossing improvements. Is that?
Well, can't you add it to H1 because it says walkways? Isn't that what a walkway is? Isn't that what he's talking about?
Yeah, construct
I mean, what else
sidewalks,
is a
walkways,
walkway?
crossing improvements,
Yeah,
and bike lanes.
you're kind of muddying it all together, but then I think 2 is your real thing where you have a comprehensive plan. That's the key.
Yes.
Is to get the NCDOT to create the plan, right? Because it's
There'd be a consultant that would be hired. He'd come and work with you guys much the same way that I'm working with you right now, specifically focused only on bicycle and pedestrian transportation.
yeah, that's what we need.
Yes.
We had a bicycle plan. We had a grant, and the board shut it down.
Well, we got a new board now, so maybe, and we have we have the data behind us that that's what people want from the survey.
Okay.
Where it says on H.1 about the crosswalks, could we change walkways to crosswalks? Because when you say walkway, I think of a beach access.
Yeah, and then I think if you change that to crosswalks, then you've scratched his itch.
Okay.
How about you just adding
Right?
Yeah,
crosswalks?
let's just add crosswalks.
You don't want to take walkways out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
we
because
just
what is
add crosswalks.
Well, wait, you're saying you want walkways across the road?
Tell them to say
To
no.
Beach
construct,
access.
Beach
it
access.
says at strategic locations on the island, it doesn't say the road. Strategic locations, yeah, we would want
Oh,
that.
so you're saying walkways? I'm thinking walkway that goes over the road. You're saying that goes over the dunes.
Yes.
Kind
Which I
of
think
like,
is
we already
crossings.
the 20 that we already have.
Yeah.
That's an access way, right?
That's a beach access. That's not a walkway, right?
Well, it depends on who's talking.
Well, yeah,
Right.
I know, and that's what I'm asking.
That's why
Can
we have to
clarify
say
that?
what we mean. So I think we should add
construct
crosswalks.
sidewalks, crosswalks. If you want walkways, I think it's probably, and this is a recommendation from the old plan, and I should have caught it. It should probably say greenway or multi-use path is, I think, what this is referring to. So we can say construct sidewalks, crosswalks, greenways / multi-use path, and bike lanes.
So what's the greenway now?
Greenway would be where you have that
Go into the marsh, right?
8 foot wide asphalt facility or something like that. So walkways, I guess, would be boardwalks, I guess, is what you guys are thinking of.
Yeah, so that's what it means to us.
Okay.
That's what this means, I'm pretty sure, walkways refer to going across from the street to the strand.
But we also have walkways that just go kind of out into the water, like, right? And don't we have one that goes into the marsh or something for like,
No, that got shot down.
Yeah.
oh, we don't have
Got
that?
took away.
Oh.
The
Okay.
theme.
We had the money.
And I believe that was talked about in chapter 3 as well.
So maybe you should change walkways to boardwalks?
Sure.
I don't know. What would you call the thing that goes from
It's
at beach? Because you're thinking beach access, right?
That's what I call them, beach
Yeah,
access
it's
ways.
walkways.
But some people call them walkways, some people call them access ways, some people call them walk over the dune
Why can't you
ways.
just
Yeah.
put et cetera in there? Because all this thing is saying is we're pursuing federal and state grant money, grant opportunities for bike lanes, et
The
cetera.
best one is the next
So
one,
that's,
where you
you know.
talk specifically about a comprehensive bicycle and pedestrian transportation plan.
So we'll just construct sidewalks, crosswalks, bike lanes, and other bicycle and pedestrian facilities at strategic locations on the island.
Thank you. That's good. Wordsmith.
This is so. Can we look at 4.2.g.
That's where I was fixing to go. And I was
The
gonna
town
see if anybody else
supports the use
brought it
of
up.
bicycles
too.
and street legal golf carts as a functional means of reducing automobile traffic and parking demands at the beach. That's the exact opposite of what those golf carts do.
That's right.
They increase traffic problems
And parking issues.
and safety.
So do we want to take that out? This was in your old plan, and I did that.
I'll tell you right now, I am the
Uh-huh.
anti-golf cart person now because my window at my desk looks out on OBW, and the sights that I see, it's kids driving golf carts. It is babies that are just being held on laps or just sitting there,
Unsafe.
crawling around, going down OBW in huge messes of traffic. Usually, they're making their own traffic
Yep.
because they're going slower.
So
And it is huge safety problems because people try to get around them because they do not move over to the side of the road.
all right, well,
And
let's
it's safe.
take it out.
The golf carts
Yeah,
and the
I'm
cars.
saying
on
Well,
the
I
same
think we
road.
need
Stay here.
to,
Back
more than
in.
take it out, we need to add something to
I'm
deter
starting
it
to
or
think
something.
This is a
'cause-
regulatory document, the way it's being done.
I don't think that's what this is supposed to do, is to regulate anything.
Well, it's,
Well, I
it's,
think
it's
if-
to, what
if-
direction do we want to take,
It's
right?
it's a goal. It's supposed to be goals. So if you think it's the opposite, then it should say
Exactly.
bicycles. The town discourages the
Exactly.
use of bicycles.
Not
No, it's
bicycles,
not
golf
bikes, but
carts.
It's the golf carts on the middle of the
Well,
road.
the
Well, I
town
think
discourages
bicycles
golf
cause a big
carts and
problem with
encourages
golf
bicycles.
Well, you can just, you can just take the golf carts out of that sentence and
Yeah.
leave bicycles, but if you want to leave it there, but,
Bicycles go slower than golf carts.
well, that's true.
But you can get around them a lot easier. They're
Yeah,
not
you
in the
can
middle
get
of the road.
And babies aren't sitting on a seat.
Oh, yeah, they're dangerous to me.
Well,
And
the
you don't have
problem
a
is,
12-year-old driving it either. Yeah.
It's like any other traffic violation, we only have so many people who can enforce those violations. But if you see somebody violating that, you should call 911.
Oh my God, and I'd be on the phone all freaking day.
All right.
Seriously.
Do it.
It's all the time.
You run
No,
out of
you're
town.
right.
Just run. Just
So
Just-
let's figure out. I mean, it's if you guys does this committee want to put a statement in here about discouraging golf carts? Sounds like you do, or do you want to just not address it?
Here's my take on it. Communities that have provided for golf carts, they've got a separate travel lane
That's right.
for those golf carts. Sun City, Arizona. I mean, and I love golf carts, and I love to drive them. I think they're fun. They're a environmentally more friendly way to get around. Blah blah blah. Love that. However, on OBW, I think they're a hazard for
So-
numerous reasons.
It sounds to me like either
That's
you
your
need to
opinion.
say you
That's
need to
my
discourage them, or you need to put in a policy saying that you need to explore options for
Better
Yeah.
enforcement of the.
something or other, making sure that they can coexist.
So I
It's
agree
not
with
enforcement,
Vicky.
it's
Like I don't have
This
I'm
is
not
not a
anti-golf cart. I can
regulatory
understand the people on the canals. They got a long way to get to the beach, so it makes sense for them. But they don't need to be going up and down Ocean Boulevard. But coming all the way from the end, from the the intercoastal to the beach, that makes sense.
So
On those,
this is a very hot topic, as you all know, in very many communities. We could spend a year coming up with a policy for how it works.
I think we should do it.
Yes.
In the
And
meantime, we at least have,
fortunately, this document is not charged with that.
I just say take the whole damn policy out.
I think so. I think
Okay.
Take
this
the
ought to
policy
be
out
minute.
and roll on.
Okay.
yeah, I can, that's better than putting it in there as a, we encourage it.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
10 years ago,
And
they didn't
support
have
it.
many of them. It sounded good.
What happened to that all-inclusive thing we was talking about
We're
earlier?
inclusive of people, just not golf
Yeah.
carts.
Right.
First question I get asked.
All right. So we
What are
take the whole
rules for golf
thing
carts
out.
on this island? I'm telling you that it's a very hot
I
topic
said-
for people who are purchasing here.
What's that?
Golf carts.
They don't want them or they want them?
They want them.
Okay.
Well, where do they look?
You
They
said
May-
one-
must be
may-
looking at the end of
May,
the,
may I add some advice so this won't be a year-long thing? Because here's what happens if it becomes a public document and a public record and people look in there that we took this out, then it looks like we don't want any of that anywhere at any time. I still think it should, if you don't want to see it or if you want to see a change, then in your land use plan, you should have some language in there that talks about what it is that you want it to be able to do as a goal. And so, saying we're just not going to put it in there at all, looks like you don't want them, okay? And so then anytime anybody does anything with golf carts, then it's not going to be in sync with your land use plan.
So if we want to do that, then I think we need to say that the town supports the safe use of street legal golf carts, and under that, you need to have a recommended action that you need to
That's right.
explore, policies and regulations surrounding the use of golf carts, particularly on.
I saw a golf cart going over the bridge
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
And
They do.
I'll say it
can.
one more time. This is not a regulatory document trying to put things in and take things out in order to regulate it. We should be looking at this from a land use plan and what we want to encourage or discourage in the future. And we need to make a goal and then have some suggestions, but not,
How does this apply to land use? Bicycles and, I mean,
You may want-
because it's actually,
Parking.
you're creating an environment for the neighborhood and for what you want to see in your neighborhood and how your community will interact and work together. And so the land use plan should help you mold that environment that you want to see. And whether you're doing it through the regulatory stuff at the zoning level or what you want to see in the future, then that's the case. But it is not a regulatory document to say, we're going to take the land use plan and, I want to see bike paths on every street. So I think every street should have bike paths. Now, you want to write in there that you think that it would be better in the future if we encourage as many bike paths as possible along available thoroughfares.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's the way this document should be looking.
So what did you end up with?
So we'll just have the town supports the safe use of street legal golf carts. Recommended action, explore policies and regulations concerning the use of golf carts in the town, or it can say work with the planning board to explore policies and regulations concerning the use of golf carts in the town.
Good.
Work with the planning
Sounds good
board?
to me.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, you can put it in land more.
Okay.
Great suggestion, Wes.
Thank you, sir.
coming to you.
Yeah.
Well,
I had one on 4.2.1, that policy, maintaining adequate fire protection. Could we just say maintaining adequate emergency response?
Maintaining adequate emergency response.
Mm-hmm.
Not just fire.
Right.
Maintaining adequate emergency response and fire protection, or just, okay, emergency response.
And then you're going to leave the sentence in below it. That excellent. That
Okay.
sentence you're leaving, right? Yeah. The town will provide support to the police and volunteers.
The only
Fire
reason
services needed to keep pace with the demands of the growing seasonal
I-
population.
I
That's
would,
good.
it would just be helpful for if Tim is or whoever's reviewing this, they'd know that this was talking also about fire. So if the word fire was in the subject header, so if it said maintaining adequate fire and emergency response,
That's fine. Because it's also EMS.
Right.
absolutely.
And some of this language is all inclusive. They use the term first responders now to include police, firemen, EMS.
So we could use the word,
Yeah, for-
fire services, we could say first responders.
But you wanted to keep the fire protection in there so that he can
Well,
search the document?
Yeah,
easier?
basically. But I guess this isn't really discussing. It's probably fine to just be emergency response. Let's get rid of the.
Table falling down?
Come on now.
Well,
Pete tore it up.
I didn't even do that.
I told you weren't supposed to do that until 22.
All right.
42J, we need to analyze.
Questions on 42J or are we on 415?
I think you wanted to say J.
414, 42J, the town shall conduct an analysis of infrastructure before rezoning parcels to allow for more intensive development. So, in other words, the way this is written is confusing to my mind. I don't know if it is to everybody's or not.
I had to read it twice last night to understand what it was saying, but I understand what it's saying.
Okay.
So we don't want to have more intensive development,
That's right.
but that's not what it says to me. Somehow or another. it needs
And
to
what
be
it's saying
reworded.
is that before you consider more intensive development, then there should be a
Adequate infrastructure.
adequate infrastructure
Sure.
in
Analysis.
place. And that's what it says. I mean, and then
Okay.
it says for rezoning parcels to allow for more intensive development or changing development standards to allow for higher density and intensity. What it's saying is if we ever wanted to change what we have in place now, then there needs to be an analysis done to show that we can handle it.
Yep.
And what that's saying, you want to know what that says? What that says is if you ever get a high rise and you approve it, then they need to provide us a water tower.
Yeah.
You got it, Tim.
Basically, or
That's what it says.
they're
You
going to
got
get
it.
mired down in a very long infrastructure analysis process.
That's right. Exactly right.
That's exactly right.
I just need it to be explained.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And no matter what, we'll still have to do the little report saying that it conforms to our consistency statement, conforms to our land use plan. So
All the way back. So this is any parcel.
Yeah, if you keep reading over on the other page, it finishes. It says infrastructure can provide, it says the analysis shall determine if existing infrastructure can provide adequate services to the town as a whole in light of the proposed rezoning or development standard changes. And the infrastructure analysis shall review road capacity, water and sewer capacity, fire flow capacity, public access, and other infrastructure demands related to the future development. So if somebody wanted to buy, let's say 6 or 7 lots, come in here and want to rezone it, and then put a whole bunch of stuff on it, right? Then we would have to do a complete analysis to see if it's going to require all those things, and if so, we can deny it until they provide it. I mean, it really does. That's the way it works everywhere, really. They got to come up with some way to either pay for it or provide it, because it's actually that way. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's the
gist of that.
best line in the document.
That's the reason I want to talk about
I
it.
said that already, but a different line.
Yeah. But that one was best for y'all, is what I said, because y'all kept wanting to tell NCDOT what to
Yeah, we ain't giving it up yet.
do. Yeah. Well, you can. You might as well tell.
so we're over on 15 now.
I don't want to road through the middle of my house.
You think I'm kidding, but that actually happened.
So
Yes.
What is this 2012 Parks and Recreation Master Plan that hasn't been updated?
there's a Parks and Rec master plan. It's on the website. You can go and look at it.
So does it need updating?
Assistant manager recommended that it might be wise to include that as a consideration.
Where's there an island near the 800 block that we could develop?
Yeah, what
As a
island is
passive
that?
record?
I'm questioning that too.
There is at the very back of that salt marsh.
There's an island
There's an
out there?
island.
That's where
There's a
he's
path.
talking about.
There's a path that goes around there.
That's what Tim was talking about at Heron Landing, Tim?
Mm-mm. Is that here in Lincoln?
What are y'all talking about?
Right here under.
43B1.
Yep.
The last
Explore
bullet.
Using the island near the 800 block parking lot owned by the town.
I'm still lost. I'm
Or
looking right at
3D.
it, apparently. So it says, consider the following recommendations regarding new public access facilities. Explore the feasibility of using the island near 800 block parking lot owned by the town as a passive recreational facility with environmental education trails.
Where'd you get that from, Wes?
Previous plan.
Here. All those bullets?
In the island, is it, Rhonda, isn't the island near the 800 block been turned into a little pocket park?
This, by and large,
I
comes
think
from
it's talking to the
your,
right
also
one.
your 2012 Parks and Recreation
I
Master
actually
Plan.
wonder if it wasn't talking about what we had the grant for before and never.
That's what I
The
thought.
walkway I was
I
just
bet
talking
So
about?
that was between Greensboro and the
Uh-huh.
next street.
Yeah, that's not 800 block.
No, 800 block is
But
here.
environmental educational trails, and that's what it was supposed to be.
That's what I'm saying. There's a path.
I don't know
You
what
see
that
people
is.
walking.
That's what it was
Well,
supposed to be.
Tim, if you go down the Hare Landing,
Yeah,
that area out there is that's the 800 block.
but that is actually a spoil area at
Yeah.
the end.
Yeah.
That is not I don't know what that
Look
is,
at
but
my
it's a
notes.
spoil
I
area.
had
I think this is.
something specifically from Christy about that.
Yeah, I think this is.
Maybe we just need to keep that B2 and have them update their master plan, because that's where he got all those
So-
bullets
I
from
agree,
that.
which would be wise and not getting into
Yeah, and then
specifics,
don't
yes.
put the specifics, and
The land
So you-
between
he got them all from the plan.
I
Sandal,
believe
just said-
Chris- but I think we talked about that with
This
Christy,
spring, whatever
if
it
I
is.
recall. But
We,
Mark's
I wasn't in that meeting.
rights to a bunch of that. I don't know if all of it.
Yeah, I was out of town too.
we'll get rid of the third bullet. How about that?
Well, are they all valid?
Oh, well, so.
If you got them all from the plan, maybe the action is just for them to update the plan.
Yeah, so we can just get rid of all that.
Which one? I'm sorry.
All of 43B1.
Okay.
Because he got those from the plan from 2012, so if he just leaves it for them to update the plan,
They'll take care of it.
then we won't have to worry
I got
about,
you. I got
yeah,
you.
So this would be 43B2 would become 43B period.
correct. It would be 43B1,
B1. Okay, B1. There is no 2.
All right,
okay?
43B1 out.
So 43C, the town shall improve signage in existing public access sites, which is awesome, located along the Sound,
Where's the sound?
Long Island, or?
Intercoastal Waterway.
Okay, let's put it that way.
ICWW.
I had that highlighted too.
Well, I except it's not. Like, I'm thinking of this as public access sites for the beach also.
So, should put them as both public ICW and beach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was this consider updating the 2012 Park and Recreational Master Plan? Was that in the old?
No. This was discussion with Christy, saying that this plan probably needs to be updated at some point because it's out of date now.
So, where do we have access sites on it? I know there's one on down in South
Halsted.
Shore,
Halsted,
Halsted, and then Halsted on South Shore.
but then also Sand Dollar Park, Sailfish Park, right?
Okay, so their signages are not even there?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, and then also you got the boat ramp right, not the boat, the kayak launch there, right?
Yeah.
So all those stuff. Is there signage for all those things? That's.
Okay.
What's this last one? Whenever you say the town should purchase my, what's this about?
This is a hazard mitigation type item. You guys can also get grant funds to do these types of things.
Was this in the other plan?
Could be.
Could be.
And it's
Could be.
also in your
That's
guarantee.
boilerplate?
It's in your hazard mitigation plan as well. But if you are not in support of it, let's take it out.
Support it, if we can get
I think it's not a
grants.
bad idea.
So what we can add in here is that with grant funds, supports the use of grant funds to acquire.
Okay.
That's
I'm better with that.
All right, okay, it says the town should consider purchasing parcels located in hazard areas or rendered unbuildable by storms or other events
Mhm.
for the purpose of public water access and conservation of open space if funding, including state or federal
Oh, there we
funding,
go.
is available.
Says what it says.
Yeah.
So it already says
Yeah.
that.
Trying to think of an example.
So that's where, like, if someone
Amazing
would
Grace.
there,
The land that we purchased down between Greensboro and the next street is open space, it's conservation area.
And then you got that little pocket park that you could never build on,
Yeah,
but
but
they made a
that's-
little park there.
That's not the definition of that.
I mean, that
It
was
says
not a
rendered
hazard area.
unbuildable by storms.
Yeah, well, it's one,
Or-
could be.
Or other events.
do you have a static line?
Between Greensboro
A
and
portion of the island does.
Portion has a static line.
Scotch Bonnet was.
I just keep going back to open space. That's going to be conservation or something that we can maintain as open space, get credit for all areas for it being open space. You know, sometimes you have a storm that washes sand over it, makes
That's
a
how
lot
we got
unbuildable.
houses.
Yeah.
7,
Yeah.
was it 714?
The East End. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm just stuck on the open space and get
Well,
credit for it
I'm
everywhere.
stuck on buying parcels located in hazard areas. Well, I want to buy one.
Well, the whole
So-
island's in a hazard area.
I mean,
The whole island's in a hazard area.
yeah. But
You know,
if you're not
hazard-
gonna use it to
ocean
build
area of
anything.
environment.
Estuarine,
It
shoreline,
It doesn't mean
the whole island
hazardous
pretty much is.
materials.
No. I
Well, it just says hazard.
It just
area.
means
It's ocean
where
hazard.
basically
Erodible.
you've
That you
had
might have-
erosion such that you can't put a house back there,
Yeah. You got some land, but you don't have enough.
and you can make
Yeah.
it, you know,
Keep it open space.
public access. Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Like,
you do
like
get
the little
qual-
park Tracy was talking about.
Okay.
It was a lot, a little bit of space left, not a lot, mostly conservation.
Not radioactive.
Wetlands.
In
It's
the
not
No,
big
no,
enough
no,
to
no,
build
no,
on.
no,
No
no,
big
no,
to build
no,
on.
no.
It's in the 600 block.
Yeah, that's right.
700 block.
Okay.
Okay, are we moving on to 416?
So I think 4.3E should be removed. Because we've determined that no additional parking is
Available.
necessary.
I'm kind of like going back to the other one that we had here. I mean, I don't think you just need to take it out.
Yeah, you need to take it
No,
out
I
because
don't
it
agree.
says
I don't agree.
develop additional parking for public. Per the advisory committee on parking, and the advisory committee came back and said we do not need additional parking, and the planning and zoning is going to make that recommendation if we haven't already to the board of commissioners.
I understand where we are today, but we need to continue to look and monitor if we need additional parking.
I will
I
say
don't
that
think
it
we
is
can just take it out.
advisable to be in there for the acquisition of future grant funds, showing that you do support
What kind of grant funds are you referring to?
CAMA grants
They don't require parking.
for certain receipt of funds. They do
Yes, they do.
require some level of public access.
Okay, not for our Camet Beach access. We've
That's
already
fine. You can
determined
take
that.
them out. I mean, just
I don't agree.
it's the last time I'll say it, but do remember that the bridge is $54 million of public money.
You are saying the same things I've been saying for 3 years. I'm
And
telling you.
whether or not you
Half each.
act to do certain things, it may be advisable for certain things, you know.
You don't want it to look like you don't want the public here.
So-
It's public land.
We're not saying that. We actually are. I'm not saying that at all. We have parking. We don't know whether we have 200 or 1,000. That's another thing. But we already have public parking. We've studied it and determined that we do not need to have additional public parking, whether we have
Look, I
200
agree
or
with
1,000.
everything you're saying.
This says the town supports the development of additional parking for public access sites. So we don't.
Tracy,
We've already put that to bed over and over.
I'm not saying we need to get more land. I'm saying we need to modify this and keep it in here so that we're continuing to look at it. So that it-
monitoring.
So that if somebody says, okay, what are y'all
Good
doing about
idea,
public
Kathy.
access parking? We at least got something in there that says we're cognizant.
So
of
we can say the town supports public access parking, that's okay, but I don't support buying additional land for it or anything like that. We do support public access. Whether they pay for it or not is another story too. But they can come here and they can park, we have parking, and we do support that.
You also can't have that it's to be identified by the Citizen Advisory Committee on Parking, because those are set up on a 90-day basis. They are one-shot deals, and that's in our ordinances. So there's not a standing advisory committee on parking.
So, I mean, if you put a very generic statement in there that the town supports public access parking, I think I'm okay.
But it didn't say that we want to purchase it. It says supports the development of additional parking. Could be something we already own. You know,
That's right.
It doesn't say we're going to buy something else.
Yeah,
It
I
says
know,
supports the
but
development of
that,
additional
the one
parking.
thing that you guys proposed that we already owned, then you have to build a bulkhead, then, you know, so it's still town funding that we don't need
Well,
additional
and I
parking
respect that
at this point.
We've had two committees now that have come up
I
and
know.
they just did it again and said, we don't need any additional parking.
And I'm not saying we need to say we need additional parking. What we're saying is we need to support the development, maybe as is needed, or we need to continue monitoring to make sure.
How about we
There's
continue
appropriate
monitoring? Or
That's fine, but we just don't need to take the
The
whole
needs.
Well,
paragraph.
can't we just say that the town supports public access parking and then leave it to whatever happens? I mean, if we decide we want to investigate it again for the umpteenth time? I mean,
Sure.
the town does support access to public parking, and that's a fair statement.
The town supports public access parking. Is that sufficient?
And continue monitoring.
I think continue on.
Continue monitoring is the needs of.
I think
Well, that
you
would
need to
be,
say
so
that.
wait, so wait, that's not the statement. That would be the action. So then the recommend action would be continue monitoring.
There you go.
Okay, there you
Okay.
go.
There you go.
So the statement is we support public access parking.
I have a question. Do you have enough parking to support future use of something you may put in? Say it again.
future use.
Growth.
How do, yes, you don't know. I could say yes, I could
We've
say
been
no,
talking
you
about
don't know.
growth for sewer, we've been talking about growth for water.
No,
and
I think
there's
he's
gonna be-
talking about, what, are we gonna put an amusement park or something?
No. What I'm saying is that let's say we want to we want to get a grant. We're trying to get it. Are we getting a grant right now? Trying to get funds for 289?
This way.
289?
Yes.
Okay, what if it comes back and says, do you have available parking within 200 feet of it?
Is that a requirement
Do
for
we
the
have
grant?
available? Well, we don't know. We don't know. But you do know that whenever they go through and look at these, when they go through and look at these grants, you correct me when I'm wrong. They'll go through and look at these grants and they'll weigh them against other people to see how you score. Now, no one's ever asked, is parking part of a score? Because I can tell you it probably is, or it falls into a guideline. And they're going to look at us and say, well, they don't have no parking there. But Sunset has parking. It's paved, but they got it, right?
They sure do.
So we're going to give them the grant, and we're not going to give it to them.
I do know for certain CAMA access grants, there's grant requirements because I've explored this with other beach communities that in fact wanted to remove some of their parking. And we had to go back and research all the original grant documentation. And if there was parking requirements tied to it, they weren't allowed to do it.
So we have investigated that also, haven't we? And didn't the parking
Yeah, I think
committee?
you came
What
back.
we
Tim
did-
came back and also investigated.
Well,
it.
what we
It's not
did
a
was we
requirement
tried to find how
beach
many of them that
access.
we had, where they said that we
If
were
they say
required.
if the CAMA signs are on there, doesn't mean that you got funding from them. So you have so it is not a simple, easy thing to do.
But it could
And
be the
even
same
if you-
thing.
Even if you do get funding from them, it isn't required, or we would never have gotten 289 because there's nothing even anywhere near that.
That grant fund may not stipulate in your grant agreement that there's parking, but you may receive one in the
289 was
future.
given to the town, the land was. There was no cost involved.
Yeah.
I know that.
But there's no parking by it, and there's no,
A grant for
the
the.
grant is for the walkway. You know,
Have we been
Well,
awarded the
we've not
grant
gotten
already?
the grant yet.
yeah, we did, we got it.
She said we didn't.
No, I think it has.
Okay.
It only
The grant.
requires
We don't have
whatever
a
it
permit.
says
We
in the
hadn't
grant.
I hadn't
agreement.
applied for the
Well,
permits for you.
I think,
It's
but
been announced.
I think the
It's
missing,
grant.
I think the missing key here is that some grants don't care.
Correct.
And some do.
Yes.
I think that's true.
Okay, so that's fine, but
Yep.
we still have the
Yep.
recommendation is continue monitoring public parking.
Yep,
Moving
Yeah.
on.
yep.
That's it.
Continue monitoring the need for public parking.
Yes, that's perfect.
Yep.
For the action.
For the
Yep,
action,
yep.
but
For the
the,
action.
but
Yep.
the policy
Yep.
is we support
support.
public access
Yep.
parking.
Yep,
All right.
thank you.
What does 4.3G mean?
I want to know that too. What's a
Reduce
conflict?
user conflicts. The town will manage conflicting uses of its beaches and public trust waters.
That's basically boating and fishing and so forth. along with swimmers or whatever it may be. This one is in your old plan, and I'll be honest, I almost took it out. But
No, that's okay.
You need to
It
leave
makes sense.
You
if-
need
if
to leave
there's-
it in there because
Okay.
we have a surfboard ordinance
Okay.
by the pier.
Do we have a?
I just didn't understand
Okay,
it. But
okay.
Yeah, you can't
Fire weapon.
can't shoot the planning director.
You can't fly a weapon down
We
there.
do have an open season on cam officer though.
No,
I can't believe we don't allow floating homes.
I had one on.
Well, let me tell you something about that. Let me tell you something about that sentence right there. That sentence is literally factually impossible
Floating homes.
on an island. It's not going to float on the island.
No, we can't get
How
that.
about the
We can't get
jurisdictional
a
water?
thing past you today.
I say leave it in there though, just for
Okay.
fun.
Gotta leave it in there. Anybody else
But
catch
you
it?
Because-
need to reword it to say jurisdictional waters or whatever.
Because
within the town's planning jurisdiction.
yeah, there you go.
What else you got, Vicki?
Okay, I got one, a recommended action that we inspect or require correction for accesses that have dune walkovers that are not adequately maintained, something like that.
Which one would
I'm
that be
making up
under?
my own.
She's adding a new one.
Under 43H?
What are you
Yep.
doing?
Well, there's some private walkways. I know what she's talking about. There are private walkways that town doesn't have anything to do with. That they're walking across the dunes and there's a big trench, but there's no walkover. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
So what's the action?
Well, I want to require them to be fixed.
Well, this is not a regulatory document. I don't know how many times I have to say it.
Okay, so can we say we
So
we
consider
support-
policies policies and regulations.
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
Yep. And then they would be required to either build a walkway or you put a fence over there and they can't have access to that.
Okay. You want to give them the history? You want me to for making people build walkways?
You can.
Okay. You make people build walkways out there that don't want them, and the storm comes along and wipes them out.
They
Okay.
don't have to build it.
That's what you just said. You're
Yeah.
going to encourage it.
No, if they're going to use it as a walkway, they've got to have a walk over instead of just trudging right across a dune.
That means they got to build it, which means that you're telling them that they have to build that walkway, and then the storm comes and tears it down.
They have to rebuild it.
Then
Yes.
they have to rebuild it.
No, I'm saying that if they want a walkway,
This has been done. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We actually have an ordinance now that says that you can't have anything wider than so many feet beyond the toe of the frontal dune to discourage the amount of debris that's out there.
Yeah.
They used to have the "you have to," which is what you're asking for, and the popular consensus was you made us build it. Now they're all tore down, so they came back and rewrote it and said that you didn't have to.
So people don't have to build walkways?
They did not have to build walkways.
So we don't have to fix our walkway, just tear it down and we can walk on the dune, right through
You
the...
can walk on the dune if it's in front of your property. You don't have to build a walkway.
Well, don't tell
I
anybody.
know.
Ooh,
we
I
have-
didn't know that.
we have regulations that nobody's supposed to be walking on the dune, $500 fine. Remember all that business?
Yeah, we did say
It's
we get
still there.
$500 fine.
It's still there.
And that's not in our best interest. We want people to to build proper walkways and not
I
walk
just
up
gave
the
you the history. If you want to put it in there, put it in there.
Consider establishing policies and regulations concerning the maintenance and upkeep of dune walkovers. Is that
Well,
Okay.
it's not only maintenance, it's building, right?
maintenance and well? There's CAMA
Construction.
regs, and I'm sure you guys had something, or do you just defer to CAMA? Or you have something more
For what?
specific?
We have,
For what?
we have
We have doing
ordinances too.
ordinance.
What are you
You
talking
do.
about?
Okay. So
Y'all
So this is a would be a so they have to be when they are installed, they go by CAMA and town rules.
They got to go by the North Carolina
maintenance-
building code too.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so you've got the and the flood damage prevention ordinance. So you've got the
That's right.
maintenance is what I think you guys are getting at.
So then we've got these that are strictly walking right over the dune that would not conform to the maintenance, right?
Because it doesn't exist. If they're walking through the dune, there's no walkway right now, so the maintenance doesn't
So you want that you want to restrict them.
Are
From
you
walking
talking
through the
about property
dune.
owner himself or herself walking?
Okay, there, like,
Yeah.
between my house is at 301 and Jordan, there's no public accesses, but there's about every fourth house, there's a trail or a walkover. Some have the actual wood walkovers and are in great shape. Some don't have anything.
Since there's not a walkway near, then that needs to be expand the beach access walkways to try and stop it.
Do you restrict them to certain houses?
No, but we restrict the size and where they can be.
So every house can have one?
And
So certain places they have to be joint
Canada don't
shared.
say you have to have a walkway.
No, it's absolutely not.
It's
Yeah.
not the
They're
house.
probably more against it than.
It's the people
Yeah.
across
If
the
it
street
come
or
down
down
to
the
it.
street, across the street. It's not the house, right? It's not the actual house.
Sure, but what
It's
you guys are
between
trying
the
to
houses.
limit the number of walkovers that are crossing on the dunes without an actual facility.
Yes.
Going through private property?
Yeah.
Some of them are private. People have given easements over time, and some of them are on town property.
So, like Sunset Beach, they require that there can only be one of those every 4 houses, for example.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
You can't have a walkover in front of your house on Oceanfront.
Sunset Beach has one of
Sunset
those.
Yeah.
Sunset Beach has a 300-yard buffer. They got a better beach.
But they have the property to do that.
No,
We don't
but
own
that
property
ain't my
between
point.
people's
My
houses.
point is they have the property. We have property, but they have a 300-foot buffer, which means that you're not building
Yeah.
those walkways out there. And so their dunes are really better protected because they're allowed to grow, the vegetation grows.
And it will
It's-
grow in the wintertime.
Yeah, it
All
will
those
grow.
paths fill right in.
Yeah.
So-
But if you have a walkway during the wintertime, it does not build under
So
that walkway.
let's just
There's always
leave,
a valley.
leave it as if it's important to consider
Once you
establishing
build it, that's the way it remains.
policies and regulations concerning dune walkovers. Period.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like there's a lot here that's
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
needs to be addressed, or that is concerning. All right. Anything else?
What is that?
That's it. That's it.
Wait,
Um,
no, not me. 43M, blocking or impairing navigational channels. Be down to the, this includes but is not limited to projects that deposit spoils below mean high water, except on the ocean front. We do that. We're doing it right now.
should we put something in there about that we've established?
That is
the
that's not a navigation channel, though.
Okay.
I don't believe.
You're talking about like the canals.
Yeah.
hmm I just don't want anything
So-
in there that says in our land use plan. say
So
we're not gonna
we
do
can-
that.
In other words, I cannot put
This
my
isn't
boat
about-
in front of my house so that it blocks people getting through to the next stop.
Yeah, I'm talking
houses.
about the
Yeah.
spoils below mean high water.
No, this would not trigger you.
Okay.
And I can't fill up the canal with,
Big boat.
with
Well,
bags.
that's violation of the Clean Water Act.
Exactly.
Is the beach renourishment committee, that's an ongoing thing, that's not a 90-day thing, so should we have something in here about that? Somewhere, as a action to support the thing?
Yeah, you could.
What's that?
So recently they created a beach renourishment committee. That's an ongoing thing. It's not one of those 90-day things.
Mhm.
It's not an advisory committee.
Right.
So I'm wondering if we should put that in here as one of our.
Is that what it's called?
It's the Inlet and Beach.
Beach Protection
Mhm.
Board.
Inlet and Beach Protection Board.
Yeah, that. So I think we should acknowledge that somewhere in our land use program, or land use somewhere. I don't know where you want to put it,
Did
but
they have a charter?
but they talk about.
Yeah, so we probably need to put their charter in there and say that the land use plan should support
Yes, exactly.
their efforts. That's what it
Beach and
is.
inlet?
Yeah, it's the
IBP.
Inlet Beach and Protection Board. Yeah, and we need to find out what their charter is and put that in there and say that we support that.
Yep.
That probably needs to go in chapter 3
It
where we're
does.
talking about
Yeah.
hazards and beach protection.
Yes, exactly.
I had a note here, and I'm trying to think where it would have gone. Public boat ramp, somewhere to reduce user conflicts, improve the parking.
That's That's actually a state
That's
owned.
the state park.
right? But it impacts us because it's screwing up
No,
our parking.
I agree. I'm just telling Wes that
Don't we already have
That's-
something about that? Don't we have something about, police chief is monitoring where people park or something there?
In the land use plan?
No,
Oh.
in actuality. Every day, every week.
well, it's closed now, so that's an easy job for
Says
him,
not-
isn't it?
It is. Took that away from him.
I want to see how they're going to stop people from parking on that bridge.
Well, they already did. You go down there and they just don't.
You wait till summer gets here.
Well, I mean, there's people working under there, so
There'll be fist
that
fighting.
turn people.
Yeah.
There are fist fights
You know-
down there without anything going on. I mean, it's
Well,
on,
Vicky, you
in
need
the
to stay
summer
home more
weekends, on the
They start
Saturdays.
fights.
It's Brunswick County.
Well, why are you hanging
Oh,
out?
come
All
on.
right.
Why are you hanging around fist
That
fights?
was a,
Okay,
Why are you hanging
so
around fist fights?
They're fighting over me.
I've been living here long enough that I'm a Brunswick.
Seriously, they're gonna have under the bridge
Still in
closed
for
till
March?
October.
opening March
Yeah,
20th.
what I heard.
18.
Is nobody like worried
Count
about
that.
what all the visitors
We
are
might have to
gonna
get a
do?
hand.
Okay.
Talk to Tim.
So
Has anybody-
are we?
I've got
Man,
another
we're
one
Yeah.
I wanted to
Because
talk
we might have our
about,
way,
and it was
have that all
the
finished, but it should be
map with the
pretty close. They're
crosswalks.
putting the second floor on today.
Yes.
I am not sure that those are
I
correct.
think he was pretty upset
Okay.
this morning. He was doing having a stick.
I'm not
What are you
sure
talking about?
that, where all these crosswalks are on map 4.3. We're showing an awful lot of crosswalks.
I don't
know
think
these
we
are
have
not-
any.
I know. I
don't
know
think
these
we
Listen,
are
have
we
any.
not-
had a thing a couple of years ago. I have to ask Christy about it because
There are no crosswalks.
they were
We
going
don't
to
have
put
any
in,
crosswalks.
they were going to put in
No,
five
No.
crosswalks.
These are not like pedestrian signal heads. These would just be where there'd be paint on the pavement.
It
No,
says
we're
marked
not. We don't have
crosswalks.
any. I don't think we have any
Yeah, we don't.
marked.
Okay.
That's what he was.
There, no,
That's
there's, are there some on the end of the streets? Is that what you've marked? Some on the end of the,
It's
Yeah, well,
just
George
where you
Boulevard,
have
the
a
streets
ladder
aren't.
stripe.
We don't have any kind of signs or anything, but the streets striped
what
across.
he's talking about. That the DOT said,
Said
don't.
that you had to
They're
take
they're
them
all
out.
Now
illegal.
listen,
They didn't put any.
DOT said about 3 years ago that they were going to put in 5 crosswalks.
And that
Remember
was
that?
Well,
They were
I'll
going to put
double
2 a
check.
year. 2 a year or something. They couldn't put them all in at one time, and that hadn't happened. That was supposed to happen like 3 years ago. Christy
I'm gonna
was,
I'm gonna look and see. Because I believe this was taken from the aerial. Photography.
Yeah, well, that's the problem
I
because
know.
they
I
put
remember
some
that.
illegally.
And then
The
they
town
did
put
it
them in, and
anyway.
the state said, "No way,
Yeah, that's
you don't
right.
get to put them in." And they marked some back over it, didn't
all I
they?
know is
in
it's
black.
Okay.
2 years ago, they told us we couldn't have any. And me and David went to Nag's Head, and Nag's Head looks like we got one every 100 feet for some reason. And
Yep.
there's absolutely no difference in them two islands. Their island, that's just a straight shot. You know, meaning they owe their side streets. Anyway.
yeah, ask Christy about that. I remember her. She came.
I'll
she
double
had
check
a
on that.
speech about it. She
Oh,
came
yeah.
up here at a meeting, town meeting.
Okay.
I don't talk to Christy.
All right.
I don't talk to Christy.
Anything
Tell
else
me.
on chapter 4?
I talked to Rhonda. Rhonda talked to Christy.
I like
Christy,
Christine.
That was all I had.
Christy appreciates
I've been
it.
in,
Are
I've
you
witnessed
going
it.
to
I've
the
witnessed
CRC
in there.
When's our next meeting?
We're not quite. So we got a couple
Can we
more.
talk about that again?
Folks, we got a couple more things to do here before we can go. I need to hand out your next material. I'm just quickly going to mention what's in there. This is land use and growth management. We talk about existing land use analysis.
Thank you.
Of course, for you guys, it's basically residential and very limited commercial. Discussion of build out analysis. Future land use, which is also fairly straightforward. You don't have a lot of complicated land uses. And then goals and objectives. So quickly, this map shows your vacant land by zoning district. There is almost no land that can be further subdivided except that one tract that is on the east end. I think you guys are probably familiar with that. Everything else is pretty much platted as it's going to be. There's maybe 1 or 2 areas that could be subdivided further. We have some analysis about, based on these platted lots, how many additional dwelling units could be constructed at full build out.
Vacant.
The future land use designation, this is sort of the equivalent of your zoning map for the land use plan, based on your existing land use patterns, your existing zoning regulations, and public input. So it's more or less identical to your zoning map, with the exception of a couple places that are still zoned for multifamily use that are used for single-family use, and those areas have been shown as single-family. But you'll have time to read that. And we'll talk about that at our next meeting, which is slated for April 23rd on our calendar. Is that meeting sufficient for folks? I believe that is around Easter weekend time, and so I believe it's a Tuesday after Easter.
Yes, it is, because the
Yeah.
21st is Easter Sunday.
So if that, okay, yeah, so that may be, we may need to have Rhonda, or we may need to work to get some other dates in place. Is what I looked at that today and thought,
Is it at 2 o'clock?
Mm-hmm. Well, our meeting's at 2 now.
See, ma'am? Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys.
Our next P&Z meeting is Tuesday, March 26th at 2 o'clock.
I can't be there for that. I'm out of town.
Okay, is there anything else?
so are we going to keep the 23rd, or do we need to add something?
I'm good with that.
I think it's good.
Okay.
I think it was fine.
We don't
Yeah.
go on the kids' schedule anymore for, do you? Do you have kids?
We have a 2-year-old.
So no. So no.
Okay, there's no public, so
7 in the morning. Make it
Um,
It's already done.
so does anybody mind if we just adjourn?
Nope.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you all very